Hey, how's it going? Hey, happy Saturday. Wow, you guys are in here early. Love it. How's it going? Man, all right. I'm going to settle the score. I saw lots of back and forth about who was first and who was not first. I thought that Twitch would show history. And so obviously, maybe if you don't get here in time, you can't scroll back that far. But anyways, I'll settle the score first. So the first was PC Geek, so sorry, yet another null. Close. I think you were seconds off, but really close. But anyway, how's it going? Hey, happy set. Hey, Maffney. Hey, thanks so much. Maffney, tier 1, 3 months. Wow, 3 months already, 3-month streak. Lights are working. Wow. Didn't even check those, man. It's been so rock solid for a while. It's how it should be. I shouldn't have to check my own code and my own infrastructure. And so far, it's been rock solid. After moving to K3S, high availability cluster, after that, it's just running. Hey. Salvarius, hey, thanks for the sub, Prime sub, thank you so much. Wow, thank you, welcome. Thanks for the sub. But Maffney, hello everyone. Yeah, thank you so much. 3 months, 3-month streak. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Salvarius, hey, thanks for the sub, Prime sub. Thank you so much. Jeez, they're just rolling in. Tech Freaks Gaming. All right, starts with tech. All right, I like it. Hey, thanks for the follow. Appreciate it. Welcome. Yeah, thank you. So. Man, how are you guys doing? I apologize, I haven't seen you since Saturday. I've been working on a lot of stuff. Nothing's new, and I don't mean to make excuses, but it's sometimes it's hard to get the weekday stream in. And believe me, if I could, I would. Yeah, it's just a game in time management. So, how's everyone doing? What are you guys working on? What can I help with? Hopefully you're having a good Saturday. 2021, man, it's already halfway through January, is it? Yeah, it's like right on the dot. See, whoa, hey, Tech Freaks Gaming. Wow, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Thanks for the sub. Man, follow and sub. Minutes, seconds apart. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Welcome. They're all rolling in now. Hey guys, thank you. GSS Grid. I want to get that one right. I'm gonna go a gas rhythms. I'm gonna pronounce all the consonants because there aren't any vowels in there. Hey, thanks so much for the follow. Really appreciate it. If you want your name pronounced some other way, let me know, and I may or may not remember. But I will. I'm pretty okay at remembering how to pronounce names once I'm told once. So I really appreciate it. Is Hype Train going? Oh my gosh, already? As soon as I start? Dude, thank you guys so much. And then Llama Kid 29. Hey, thanks for the follow. Appreciate it. Welcome. So how are you guys doing? What are you guys working on? What project do you have going on today? Is it tech? Is it not tech? Is it kind of tech? Is it nothing at all? Games? What is it? Let me know. Hopefully everyone's doing okay. Oh, my mic is kind of peaking. I'm glad I took a peek there. So let me see, right about there. I think right about there. I've been adjusting my audio. Still haven't figured it totally out, but I keep remembering to save my profile. So anyways, hopefully it's okay. Let me know if this sounds okay. I'll try to keep an eye on it. I was kind of peaking, going a little bit in the red. Hopefully it didn't sound like absolute garbage. Man, you think I'd figure this out by now, but just so many changes. Anyways, let's see. So PC Geek, you were first. Yet another Noel. You came in really quick behind. Seconds behind. Beat you to it. Sorry, man. Stream hype. Yes. Proof it was first. I had to settle that one. But yet another Noel. You were really close. PC Geek beat you in here. And PC Geek, hey, look at that new badge. Moderator badge. Hey, man. Thanks for the help. I appreciate it. So trying to fit, here we go. PC Geek, you're trying to find an alternative to Heimdall. So I think there are a couple. I mean, I use Heimdall because it's dead simple. Organizer's the other one. So Organizer is the other one that a lot of people use, and it's pretty full featured. Like, whether it's better is up to you and what your needs are. And I need something super simple that looks nice and elegant that might give me data, but really I just want to click buttons instead of going into my favorites. It's like an extra click. But Organizer is a really, really popular one, and it's really feature rich. I mean, you can customize it as far as you want to go. At least that's what I've seen. So yeah, let me know, PC Geek. One that isn't hogging RAM. Yeah, I have to look at my got to look at my Heimdall, look at my container to see how much RAM it's using. I know that, so it has services, in the back end of the container itself to query other services. If you turn all that off, it shouldn't be doing much. So I think it all depends on how many services you have configured. I only have a handful. But yeah, the more you add, obviously, the more load it's going to add, because when you configure those smart apps, I forget the marketing term for them, but when you configure those, you're basically configuring now a web service to go out and then query some other service for you. Let me grab a drink. Throat's dry already. How is that possible? Okay, so yet another no. Okay, what are we working on? Open source JavaScript, learning site contribution and some Twitch game. I like it. I've done kind of some of that. Yeah, I've done actually a lot of that. Awesome. So JavaScript, I think pretty awesome. Arguably awesome. I'll say that. Site contribution. I assume you mean contributing to open source code. Awesome. And then Twitch game. I haven't built an official game. I built unofficial games for Twitch. So that's really awesome. I hope it goes well. Yeah, let me know. Is it like an add-on or an extension for Twitch, or is it like your own game within your channel? Because both are awesome. LOL playing It's Always DNS. Yes, it is. How's it going? Let's see here. Mafni, how's it going? I said that already. How are you? Oh man, this one's tough to pronounce too. LH Rider, I'm going with that. Looking into migrating VPS hosting from Virtualizer to Proxmox for better KVM performance. Awesome. Yeah, so going from the cloud to self-hosting. I like it. I like it. Yeah, I think this is going to be a trend. I mean, I know it is. We went from the shift from, we've been through many shifts in technology, right? Went from physical to virtual to containers sometimes. And then, went from cloud to, or on-prem to off-prem in the cloud. And now it's kind of a combination hybrid. But I think the more and more people do in the cloud, I think it's starting to become more cost-effective to be back at home, if you will, on-prem. Just because, it gets expensive once you get to the cloud, depending on what you're paying for, especially if your workloads are CPU intensive. Hey, Jenna Ryan, resub, 4 months, Prime. Thank you so much. Thank you. Lights are going. Jenna Ryan, thank you. Thank you so much for the Prime sub, 4 months. Thank you for the continued support. But yeah, I think we're moving into this, this next era. Arguably, we've already been there because hybrid cloud stuff's been around for a while. And I think when hybrid cloud stuff started, I think that was more of a marketing. I'm making this up, but this is my opinion. So when hybrid cloud started, it was very early in cloud days, and I honestly feel like that was more of marketing by cloud providers to start to dip your toes in the cloud to hopefully then get you full cloud. But I think a real hybrid cloud is starting to emerge. And arguably, a lot of companies are already there. Some companies are thinking about it. Some companies are considering going to the cloud. Some people at home are considering going to the cloud, but some people are pulling it right back home. So lots to talk about there. Anyways, but going back to your comment about better KVM performance, I totally agree. That's half the reason why I still keep my stuff here, is because I have some workloads that are CPU intensive, and I want to keep them here. I want to keep them here for many reasons. But I would definitely pay a lot more to keep my stuff in the cloud, even if I take into consideration the hardware I bought. Over time, it would definitely be expensive, especially GPUs. GPUs in the cloud are like no joke, super expensive. So I get unless GPUs in the cloud start getting cheap, or I could have an NVENC or a very optimized stream encoder in the cloud. Yeah, I'm going to stay here for a while. But yeah, I agree with that sentiment. I've been a self-hoster for a long time. Vomsy, happy Saturday. Puppy, look at that puppy emoji. Oh yeah, happy Saturday to you too. Piece of Geek, congrats on the 10K followers. Yeah, thank you. I just kind of realized that. I was like, you know, I try not to look at the numbers. With YouTube, it's kind of hard not to. With Twitch, it's kind of like, you know, it's a little more hidden, I guess, subdued, if you will, than YouTube. But yeah, I just realized that and I was like, whoa, this is pretty big. I don't remember the last time I looked at my numbers for Twitch as far as followers. So yeah, a pretty big milestone. The next one's a long way away. Same with YouTube. They're both far away, but yeah. Penguin Airlines, hey, how's it going? You got the haha cat. Oh yeah, back with the sweet emojis. Penguin Airlines emoji game is on point. You guys gotta battle with him for emojis because he's got some good ones. I know you guys got some good ones too, so I'd love to see them. Dell Champs, sup chat, sup Techno Tim, just followed your YouTube video of upgrading FreeNAS, TrueNAS, and it went great. All right, yeah, thank you. Yeah, you know that one, that's the elongated one. That one's a little bit longer because I know you can do online upgrades, but I wanted to show offline upgrades and air-gapped ones and kind of, I guess, a little more fail-proof ones. I mean, not that anything's going to go wrong with upgrading TrueNAS over the air, but some people don't give their NAS access to the internet for whatever reason, for lots of great reasons. And so I wanted to show how you would do it in an air-gapped install. So I'm glad it went well. Speaking of TrueNAS, so you guys know that I've mentioned this a few times. I've been kind of vocal about it, about the performance on iSCSI, and people have mentioned the performance of SMB with TrueNAS 12. Well, they released, I think, update 1 a while ago, and supposedly update 2 is coming out in February. So soon, a couple of weeks. And this is supposed to address, I guess, the problems that a lot of people have been having with performance. So if you're using NFS and you're using, well, let me put it this way: if you're using iSCSI, if you're not using iSCSI, this probably never affected you. If you're using SMB shares, it might have affected you a little bit. But if you're using NFS, it didn't affect you at all, according to what I've read. Anyways, long story short, I've been a part of this thread of this bug where, you know, TrueNAS engineers have been working on it. And fortunately, I just saw that they closed out all the bugs, all the related tickets to it, and basically said, hey, it's there now. The fix is updated. You can download an updated kernel if you want, or wait for the update next month. So that's good news. Good news for sure. Because I thought, man, I thought I was off in the weeds. But hats off to TrueNAS for fixing that bug. We'll see if it's really fixed. I believe it is. And I think what it all boiled down to was, hey, Egg House. All right, Egg House. Prime sub, 2 months, 1 month streak. Thank you so much. I'd be so lost without Techno Tim. No, you would. No, and there's plenty of other people out there doing really cool stuff. I'm just trying to do it my way, I guess. But yeah, I appreciate it. Egg House, thanks for the sub. Really appreciate it. Anyways, that fix that I was talking about from TrueNAS is coming soon. I'm super glad they fixed it. And what it boiled down to, at least what I could figure out in the engineering notes, was that it had to do with drivers. So network drivers in the kernel they were using in TrueNAS 12.0. So anyways, if you've had any performance issues with network transfer speeds, I hope that they'll be resolved in this next update. So I think it's U2, I think is the update. Anyways, so I'm kind of babbling about that, but I know there are a lot of TrueNAS fans in here, and you know, and I use TrueNAS too, and you know, I've been vocal about the bug and how it affected me. So hopefully this will fix it. I went all back to local edits for all my videos now. I was doing over the network, and the iSCSI thing didn't. I guess it was a nice signal for me to say, maybe I should be doing local edits anyways, because I noticed after going back to local, like the performance for editing videos was just like insane compared to over the network. Anyways, so look for that. That's coming out in February, and hopefully you guys will get some better performance. But anyways, I'm a huge fan of TrueNAS. Tech Freaks Gaming, always watching your latest videos. They're great, thank you. Speaking of the latest videos, man, I realized that UniFi is super polarizing. So anyways, Tech Freaks Gaming, thanks for the comment, I really appreciate it. I'm gonna elaborate a little bit, but I noticed that UniFi is super polarizing. And you know, I get it, like people make architectural decisions, and they run, they choose a product or a brand or a product, and in which then is choosing your architecture or your infrastructure at home, and then they rally behind it, which is super awesome. But I realized, man, UniFi is super polarizing. That's all I'll say. No, I'm going to say more. And I had people like this morning. I was feeling kind of super bummed. Like, I was super pumped about this video. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is like the most editing I've ever done. Like, I felt like a lot of my transitions, like I cleaned up so many things, and then people are like, I came here for open source. That's what I expect from this channel. I'm like, when did I say I was an open source channel? Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I use open source code. I love open source. I write open source. I contribute to open source. But I was a little bummed. But I just gotta roll with it and not think about the last video I put out. It's always about the next one, and so I just got to keep moving forward. But anyways, I was a little bummed when I read that. I was so excited to wake up and just see okay, what are people gonna think? And I always am. Every Saturday, I'm just like, okay, what do people think? What do people think? It's just fun. And in a way, I realized in responding to those comments this morning, like, hey, this is like, my channel my channel has my topics. And so these are my topics of discussion for the day, for the weekend, for the night, for the next couple of days, for the week until the next one. And so that's what I realized after reading it. I'm like, no, I definitely take the good with the bad. I'm sorry that someone's expectation was that I only talk about open source software. It's never been that. My channel is called Techno Tim, and it's never been totally about open source. But I enjoy open source. I contribute to open source. I love open source. I wish everything was open source, but companies make choices. And we make choices every day that, we're either going to support this company or we're not. And same goes with open source. Anyways, I don't mean to babble about it, but the moral of the story is, like, I take the good with the bad, and all feedback is a gift, whether it's critical or positive. And you can't always have positive or I'll never grow. So anyways, I just wanted to level set that my channel isn't only about open source. I mean, almost every video, a good majority of them have something in there that's not open source. Anyways, I'm babbling now. But I won't, I will say though that I do love open source. I write open source code and I contribute to open source projects. So, but not everything on my channel will be open source. Anyways, you guys are burned out on that. Anyways, I've just had to do my little retrospective. That was my retrospective for this morning. And now we're on. I took the feedback. I will apply it to my next one and move forward. Oh man, it's just Thomas. All right, GSS. Okay, that's a lot of consonants, all consonants. I'm going with Thomas because you told me Thomas. So thanks, Thomas. Thanks for clarifying that. Thank you. And if you guys if you have a username that is hard to pronounce or doesn't have vowels, let me know, because I'd love you call you by name, maybe not by a given name, but by any name you want besides things I probably shouldn't say. Anyways, Cybet, hey, thanks for the sub. Prime sub, thank you so much. New sub, thank you so much. Cybet, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Thanks for the support. Penguin Airlines, working through some hardware shopping for a control board for my upgrade to my 3D printer at the moment. Nice, man. Nice. I need to see more pics, man. I need to see more pics of your 3D printer endeavor. I get excited. I live vicariously through people like you who post their 3D printing stuff, because I don't have a 3D printing yet, and so I appreciate the content you post in Discord, as well as like your choices that you make, because I'm sure you put tons of time into it. Like this, you're preparing to buy a control board and not just buying one. So I value your opinion on this. So when I get to that point, you know who I'm going to come to. I'm going to come to you, you and Holymark for sure. Thomas just added RGB to my Homelab. Thomas, dude. Oh man, I got to talk to you about this. What part of your Homelab did you illumify with RGB? Was it hopefully your server rack? I haven't done it yet. I want to, but I want to see other people's first. Like, I know there's great pictures out there, but I love seeing people's firsthand pictures of illuminated RGB Homelab. Me and my videos, I usually just shine some lights in the background. I'm like, there we go. There's some RGB lights shining on it, but I would love to like illuminate my rack, Not just because it looks cool, because it does, but also just so I can see, because, you know, I don't know, it's kind of dark in the basement. But anyways, would love to know what you settled with. Yet another null, I'm here. Hey, thank you. Thank you. I saw you earlier. Did you leave and come back? Cloud Bedrock. All right, good name. Good. You got the top and you got the bottom. I like it. Cloud Bedrock. Working on getting a new XCPNG development lab stood up. Firing up a second TrueNAS Mini XL. Awesome. Awesome. How do you like XCPNG? Hearing a lot of great things about it. I'll definitely, it's on my short list of things to check out. But I don't know much about a TrueNAS Mini XL. I'm assuming this is hardware from IX Systems, which is awesome. They have great hardware. And that's awesome. And then if you're firing it up or buying hardware from them, is this for home or for business? Because I would love to know that too. Thunderstorm 91, trying to work with Ansible roles. All right, let me know when you got that figured out. Yeah, that is so fantastic. You know, I just learned Ansible just a couple of weeks ago, and I still run my scripts. Like, I don't have the greatest roles. Like, I don't have things as organized as I probably should. So I'd love your feedback on how you assign roles. Like, I mean, I assume you assign them as server roles. Like you would say hypervisors, right? And then you would have your hypervisors. Or you would say Kubernetes nodes, right? And you would have your Kubernetes nodes and list all of your desired state, and you would run those over time, which sounds awesome. And I should probably do. But I have a lot of crossover with my machine. So I'm really not always entirely sure how to organize them. So I would love to see. I know that Jeff Geerling has a bunch of stuff in his GitHub repo, and I should probably look at that too, because you know, he knows this stuff. Me, nah, I just learned it. But let me know, like, what kind of roles you have for Ansible, because I'm super curious. Like, how do you classify a server? Is it according to an actual role, or is it according to an OS, or is it a hybrid of both? You know, because some modules work cross OS and some don't. You know, apt versus yum, for example. You know, package managers, different module, but at the end of the day, they do the same thing. I almost wish that was abstracted, and maybe it is. Because that's, I feel like for me, the holy grail is abstract all of that, you know, and give me a module that's just update and let me run it on Windows, Mac, Linux, you know, on BSD, whatever, any Unix-like system, and just give me a abstracted update module. That would be awesome. Maybe one exists. I don't know. Maybe, or maybe not. Maybe the ROI is not there. But anyways, Penguin Airlines, also printing an Ethernet cable organizer so I can refinish the attic runs. Awesome, man. Awesome. You are printing away. I remember seeing one of your attic runs from the attic down to, I think, your closet. Probably not even air quotes closet. I think it was a real closet. But yeah, I'd love to see more of it. More pictures. I love pictures. Yet another null. You got to say that was... you got to say that I was first. I have to go clip it and print it. What? Yeah, sorry. Maybe. I should have trolled PC Geek a little bit more. I have this. I'm not the greatest at trolling people because I feel like sometimes when I'm trolling people, I'm being dishonest, and then then I have to like explain that, hey, I was just trolling, and so need to work on that for sure. I should have trolled PC Geek and gave him something to think about. PC Geek moved to a mirrored Windows storage spaces volume, 2 disks. Nice. From one server, and another, no issues, imported just fine. It's based on ReFS too, very stable. Nice, man. I used storage spaces back in the day. It was actually pretty enjoyable from what I remember from it. That was when I had like I think an Atom-based processor, and I might have been using Windows Home Server? I don't remember. But I remember it being nice because it was, it's just basically JBOD disks with some redundancy, and it was pretty awesome from what I remember. I don't know much about ReFS, but I'm sure if it's a new file system, and if you're saying it's very stable, I'm assuming it's a newer file system, and if it's a newer file system, hopefully it has newer features. But yeah, I have to look into it. Yet another null. If I was second, then I'm gonna cry and leave in the corner. Cheers. Sorry, man. PC Geek. Heimdall memory goes up slowly over time. Memory leak then. It is also using PHP FPM. even with those external servers, even with those external those external APIs disabled, it runs PHP FPM every 3 to 5 seconds. That peaks the CPU usage. Oh, that's not good. Aminus. I got to get this right. Amiens. I'm going with Amiens. Hey, thanks for the follow. Appreciate it. Welcome. PC Geek, yeah, that's not good. Yeah, maybe this is a bug. I would look in their GitHub repo and see if someone's reported that issue, and maybe they'll just say, no, that's a feature. If they say, no, that's a feature, that's not good. But if someone has reported the issue or has not reported the issue, yeah, then we can, yeah, I guess inspect from there. I would encourage you too that like if you know this information and that issue is not there in GitHub, also search closed issues, to report it. And you know, people, I think oftentimes people think that, you know, I've said this before, but I'll say it again. I think oftentimes people think that, you know, contributions to open source are just code based, and they're not. And, you know, even reporting issues with some really good findings and some data behind it, it is contributing to open source. So I encourage you I'm putting you on the hot seat. I encourage you to open that issue with them, because I'm sure, like, if I was a developer and something like that was going on, and it was unexpected and it was a bug, I'd be like, oh, thank you for finding that. Like, I'm gonna fix this. But anyways, that's unfortunate. I'll have to check my container and see what it's doing too. I've been kind of like, now that I have my Kubernetes stuff, I'm just like, yep, go. And you know, I see my resources as a whole, one big pool, either per node or per cluster. So it's awesome that you found that. It's a little needle in the haystack. I should watch my containers a little bit more closely. Let's see, Mafni, good. Hello, first time using Twitch. Okay, Liquor. Oh man, this, okay, LZ, you tell me how this is pronounced. LZQR74 KG, governor, yeah, there's a lot of consonants in there. I'm just gonna say Liquor Governor, because that's kind of what it looks like to me. First time using Twitch, hey, welcome to Twitch. Thanks for being here. So I assume you came from some other social platform and you're here now. So I appreciate it. That's a huge leap, and I'm not being facetious, that really is. And especially signing up for an account and creating one and joining the stream. So I appreciate it. Norton Tech, Heimdall Docker image is not working for me. Lots of database errors. Oh man, this is not good. Norton Tech, yes, you just sparked my memory. And I should have known this from PC Geek just talking about it. I ran into some issues earlier this week with Heimdall, and I got database issues, like PHP issues, when I was modifying one of my apps on my dashboard. Every time I would modify it, I'd get some PHP error and see some white screen with errors. And I'm like, I have never seen this before. I don't know if it's what I had configured before, or my, you know, the app I was configuring, which was nothing more than a shortcut itself. So yeah, I totally agree. So I'll have to check that out and update my container later on today, because I noticed that too. And I was just like, I'm just not going to change the URL. Like, I don't have time to chase this down, which I'm sure a lot of people are the same way. But I noticed that too. Thanks for calling it out. I'll see too. And just like that, I was just saying, man, we should report this stuff. I'll report it too. If I go and the latest container has this same issue, I will absolutely open an issue on Heimdall's GitHub repo. Sorry, gotta cough. Interesting. Mine's using SQLite. Interesting. Oh, yours is using SQLite? Yeah, I think mine is too. I think a lot of containers that don't need distributed data use SQLite, because it's super simple, and it's arguably it's super simple to implement. I mean, I've used it a little bit before in the browser, way back. But yeah. Let's see, JRocker 2004 weekend project. Figure out a light switch relay that can trip remotely, so when one of my security cameras sees motion, it can turn on my porch lights on, just in case Amazon delivery guy is afraid of the dark. I like it. Okay, so let's break this down. Figure out a light switch relay that can trip remotely. Okay, so that's if I think in terms of if this then that, because I keep going back to code. So the if is if there's motion on a camera, then you want to turn on a light, basically. Yeah, I mean, I'm oversimplifying it, but that's what it boils down to. Yeah, depends on what kind of lights you have, depends on what kind of camera security system you have. There's a lot going on there, but it sounds super fun. I even saw that someone was doing it with my cameras. They were like, I think, analyzing the video that came through, looking for motion, because I don't think UniFi has an easy way to integrate with third-party systems, but someone figured it out. And I could be wrong, but they were analyzing the video with something else and then triggering their own custom code after that, which looks pretty cool. Anyways, Jay Rucker, yeah, let me know what you go with, because this sounds super interesting. Resist Futile. Hello, currently working on setting up a Minecraft server network with friends, currently setting up zero-tier VPN. Nice. Nice. When you say a Minecraft server network, so are you hosting or running more than one Minecraft server? I'd be interested to know, because I've always been curious, like how do you scale Minecraft? I'm sure you can, but I always think of horizontal scaling, right? Just throw more resources at it, more cores, more RAM, more compute. Can you horizontally scale Minecraft and go wide and just say, hey, I'm not going to throw more compute at it per se. I'm going to throw more nodes at it and run more containers, or however you have it configured. So yeah, let me know. I'm always interested in that for sure. Norton Tech Linux server IO version. Yeah, me too. I'm right there with you. I totally know exactly what you're talking about because I think I experienced something earlier this week. PC Geek, Amazon has some smart plugs that you can flash with Tasmoda. Yeah, they do. Tech Freaks Gaming, currently deploying 64 VMs into Azure for a new RDS farm to replace on-prem Citrix. So far, all's looking great, thankfully. Wow, that is awesome. So 64 virtual machines in Azure, sweet. To replace a RDS, so I assume remote deployment services. It's been a while. Remote desktop services, there we go. Oh, yeah, because it's Citrix. Oh, nice. Nice. So you're moving from different technology, different hosting provider, right? From on-prem to off-prem in the cloud. That is awesome. That sounds like an awesome project. It'd be fun to spin up that much stuff in the cloud and just go. So what do you actually use to deploy? Are you using Azure tools? Are you using Terraforma? Are you using something, where you're making these decisions or controls locally? Yeah, let me know what the tooling looks like for that, or if it's just all Azure tooling and doing it from their dashboard. Not that that's nothing wrong with that. Absolutely nothing wrong. I do a ton of stuff in GCP from their dashboard. Just curious about the tooling. I'm always curious. Tenji PL. Hey, are there any cheap Kate's control plane only hosting? Oh, that's a great question. I don't know. That is a good question, right? Because if you wanted Kubernetes and you wanted a cluster, you need control plane servers or API servers. Is there any cheap hosting? I don't know the answer to that. I mean, I will. I guess I'll comment on what I know. I'm sure a lot of people know other things out there. But yeah, I think you could decide between a hosted, Kubernetes, basically a SaaS, right? Hosted Kubernetes. Or I won't say bare metal, but just virtual machines where you basically pay for the compute. You might be able to get by just paying for the compute on a small VM, right? Or extra small VM, or look at your cloud provider, look at their extra small VM option, and that might be good enough to run Kubernetes. I mean, you might be kind of low on RAM depending on how much RAM they give you, but you might be kind of low. And if it's only doing control plane, you don't have to worry about user workloads running there if you have a taint and have it set up that way. You don't need to worry about a ton of RAM, just enough RAM, right? So I don't know the answer to that. I mean, I've done. Hey, Ujual, good boy. Hey, thanks for the follow. Appreciate it. Welcome. So I've done hosted Kubernetes. I've done it in Azure, and I've done it in GKE, which is Google Kubernetes Engine, which is their hosted solution, their SaaS solution for Kubernetes. They both work great, but that might be overkill because they're going to give you a whole entire cluster. So yeah, maybe look at just, virtual machine, just raw compute, and maybe hosting it that way. I don't know the answer to that. I'm just spitballing. some answers. Hopefully that helps. Tech Freaks Gaming, good luck with that. Hope everything goes well. Hey, thank you. Ilude, hey, how's it going? Look at that moderator badge. Thanks for your support, dude. Thanks for your help. I really appreciate it. I've heard GPUs for the home can be expensive too, especially when you don't install them. Oh, he brought jokes. I love it. Yeah, I know. Yeah. So if you didn't see on social media or in Discord, I was able to get my hands on a 3090, and actually I've been tracking it for 3 weeks, and I signed up for alerts. Someone was nice enough to tell me how to track the stock of NVIDIA video cards, as well as AMD chips and stuff like that. So I did some tracking, and then I realized, hey, Best Buy, every Tuesday at around 10 Eastern, they release new stock. And I noticed that pattern over the last couple weeks. And so, this past... I've been hoarding it for a while. So this last week Tuesday, one came in stock. It was a 3090. I wanted a 3080. I said, you know what? I just was like, man, I'm going to pay 2x for this thing. But, it opens the doors for other things like, more CUDA cores, more RAM, machine learning, AI, all that. I started justifying in my head, but then also thinking about, man, 3080s, I'm never going to get my hands on these because, everyone's buying those up. Anyways, and then it came in stock on Sunday, so I've been sitting on it tomorrow a week, and it actually has not left the box. Here, I'll show you. Let me grab it real quick. Be right back. All right, let me get my headphones on for this. This thing is a beast. If I just dropped this right now, I'd probably cry. I really would. This thing is massive. Like, this is no joke. So this 3090, as you can see, this is still on the protection for the PCI Express slot. Like, this thing is massive. Like, I'm not even joking. I wish I could show you how massive this thing is other than just like holding it here. You know what a AAA battery looks like? Yeah, that still won't do it justice. I mean, the only thing that will really do this thing justice on how big it is actually putting a 1080 next to it, which is running the stream right now, so I can't. So anyways, the joke so far has been me not doing anything with this other than, well, this is the first thing I've actually done with it other than take a picture of it and kept it in the box. And there's a lot of reasons for that. Let me just put it this way. One, I was rushing to get this current video out, and I didn't want to change my, as developer in me, I didn't want to change my environment until I was done with the project, because any change to my environment, like any bugs or anything that I would run into means lost productivity, right? Maybe I would have gained it back rendering it with this thing, right, afterwards. And so I was like, okay, so I kept it on my desk. I didn't do anything with it. And so they've been trolling me all week about like just not doing anything with it. Anyways, another reason why I didn't install this beast yet is because I want to do some performance testing, right? Like I want to make sure that, I know that I'm going to get pretty big gains from this thing. How much will I realize? I'm not sure. And so I want to measure that just like you measure anything. You measure performance on websites, performance on servers, performance on CPUs. And so I want to figure out what my gains are and not only just say, yeah, they're better, but I want to have some numbers behind it. Because I want to, there's no way I can justify this thing because this thing is beast mode. And it was not cheap. But anyways, long story short, it was pretty expensive, but I might be apologizing for the cost or justifying it. But the way I look at it was, I bought my 1080 4 years ago, and even 4 years ago it wasn't brand new, and so I've used that card for a long time. It's done a lot of good. It still can do a lot of good, but I've been saving ever since then. So if this card lasts me 4 years, then I think it's okay. And my workload has definitely changed. Back then, that card, my 1080 was only for gaming. My number one priority was gaming. My number one priority now for this card is not gaming. And I tried to break it down in my head a couple ways, but my number one, like the biggest performance gain I hope to get out of this card is faster render times, just better render times for when I edit my videos, which I should be able to do pretty good. And arguably, I would have done that with the 3080. And then, you know, after that, it's better streaming, which arguably I have pretty decent streaming right now. But that might change if I go to a 4K monitor and then I play a 4K game on a stream. That won't really, my 1080 won't cut it. And then there's the whole machine learning and AI stuff that I'm super interested in, and I want to dig into a little bit more. And then there's gaming, obviously gaming. So anyways, I feel like I should put this back, but like this thing is so awesome. I mean, you guys have probably seen these up close, but like the fins on here are so fantastic. I wish I could show you something. Like, oh, I better not show that. It's a gift card. Well, I'll show the gift card. But like this thing, I better not show the back of this gift card. You guys will be cashing in on this. Anyways, like look how wide this is. This is as wide as a credit card. So this is pretty wide. Like this is no joke. And the same with the height. I mean, this thing is just like, it weighs a good 5 pounds or something like that. Hey, Miniwick. I'm going with Miniwick. Gifted. Oh, dude, gifted a sub. Thank you so much. Gifted a tier 1 sub to DarkVex87. So, hey, DarkVex87. Thank Miniwick. I'm going to go with Miniwick until you tell me different. Thank him for the gifted sub. So anyways, iLoad, yeah, to answer your question, this is the most action it's seen in a week. So it's been here for a week. Today was supposed to be the day that I'm going to install it, and I should, but I need to measure a couple things first, and I need to find some better tooling for measuring. So anyways, yeah, I totally agree. GPUs at home can be expensive too. In the cloud though, they're super expensive. When you start saying, hey, I got a workload that runs 24/7 and I need GPU for it. Oh man, that's one of the most expensive things you can do in the cloud right now. But anyways, thanks for rubbing it in, dude. Appreciate it. LH Rider, in the case, it's not cloud to local. I do VPS hosting and Minecraft hosting on dedicated servers. But the KVM performance in virtualizer is quite bad for the 1K a year you spend on the license. Yeah, that's an expensive license, especially if you're doing something like Minecraft hosting. I mean, unless you're making money off the Minecraft hosting, that's pretty expensive. Yeah, you could scale really. Yeah. I mean, at home you could put that $1,000 into something more RAM, better CPU, all of the above, and scale out pretty big. So. But then, you know, you have bandwidth constraints and all that stuff too. But yeah. Oh man, I can't even pronounce this one because I'm laughing at the comment. Perking. You look like the Justin Bieber of tech streams. That's a new one. That is totally a new one. I don't know if I see that one at all. Usually it's always Johnny Depp, so that's a new one. Appreciate it. I don't know if that's a good thing, but I don't think so. But anyways, Wrathworks. Hi, Tim. Love your channel. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Let's see here. Palace Media. So you prefer TrueNAS over Unraid. Why is that? This comes up a lot, so I think I need a drink first. Gosh, my drink is so close to this video card. I'm just going to kind of place it back. Hey, AML. Thanks for the follow. Appreciate it. Welcome. Let me move this video card because, oh my gosh, it just scares me. Okay, this is a long-winded answer. I should totally have this pre-recorded, but I don't mind answering it. So TrueNAS versus Unraid. I mean, this is Unraid versus everything else, right? And so at the end of the day, you know, they're both trying to give you something, you know, where, you know, Unraid and TrueNAS. Real quick, Kessor, hey, thanks for the follow, appreciate it. You know, where do I even begin with this? I'll keep it short, but Unraid is a fine product. Haven't used it myself. I think they sit somewhere in between roll your own NAS, hypervisor, containerizer, everything, and a Synology, right? Or a store-bought NAS that has other features. So they sit somewhere in between. Like, you don't have to roll your own services and roll your own hardware, and you don't have to buy your hardware and get your services through Synology, they sit right in the middle, right? I get to choose my hardware and then choose that software. So they're a little on the custom side, but not as far as the store-bought NAS solution. And do I prefer one over the other? I have zero experience with Unraid. I have a lot of experience with TrueNAS, but I will say that, I don't use all the features of TrueNAS. I'll say this freely. I look at TrueNAS like a NAS itself. So I think of it like data as a service or storage as a service. So I don't use TrueNAS as a hypervisor. I don't use its jails or its containerization system. And I don't use a lot of the features that come with it. For me, TrueNAS is all about network storage. So I use iSCSI, I use NFS, I use SMB, and kind of MinIO right now. So those are the 4 things, and all of those are different storage types. And so, if I were to, it's not like I have anything against Unraid, but I don't need an all-in-one box. And I know some people need an all-in-one box. If you need an all-in-one box, Unraid's a good choice. TrueNAS is a good choice. Synology is a good choice. But I don't need an all-in-one box because I pick and choose my capability from each product that I choose. And for me, it's kind of separation of concerns. Like, I get it. Like, I've ran many all-in-one boxes. I've rolled them myself, with lots of different solutions and thrown everything on one box, and it works great. But lately, over the last couple of years, I've been separating those out and saying, okay, this box or virtual box, not the product, but this virtual machine is dedicated to this role, and it's going to do this thing and this thing only. And so I've been doing that. And so for me, TrueNAS is giving me network attached storage, different types of storage, but it's not going to be my hypervisor, right? For me. And it's not going to be my containerization system or jails or plugins. I am choosing Kubernetes for that, and Kubernetes is going to do containerization for me. And then for hypervisor, I personally choose Proxmox for that. And so Proxmox is going to be my hypervisor. And so I've just been going through and hand selecting what I think is the best solution for me. And I go after capabilities, and then I choose a product that way. It's pretty much how I operate. I want to find something that gives me this capability. What are my options out there? What's the best thing for me? And so that's how I do it. And if you're looking for an all-in-one solution, one box, both Synology, I keep saying Synology, but buy a NAS and an Unraid solution where you roll your own NAS plus more, and a TrueNAS solution where you roll your own NAS and everything else plus more are all good options. So it's really going to come down to what you want. What I will say with Unraid, though, is that they figured out a lot of the tough problems for you. Now, I'm saying all of this without ever using it, but I do pay attention to the product. I have seen it used. I see why people use it. I see their plugin community. I just saw the other day, like, someone in their community is creating all these Docker containers for game servers. And I'm like, that's awesome. And they're Docker containers. It has nothing to do with Unraid other than this person either works for Unraid or really likes Unraid and likes doing this for the community. And they work anywhere. Like one of the TF2, Team Fortress 2 servers were built by someone who likes Unraid. Anyways, I kind of digress. But my point is that Unraid does a lot of things really nice, and you get them with low effort, lower effort than you would if you would go with other solutions. I mean, there's probably a lot of people in here who use Proxmox who have tried to pass the GPU through to a guest machine, and it's really hard. I mean, you could raise your hand if you're one of those person. You can do it at home. No one's going to see you. And raise your hand, and you're just like, yeah, I've done it. It's super hard, or yeah, I've tried it, and I gave up. And that's something, that Unraid will give you with a checkbox. I'm oversimplifying this. Hey, LinkFan86. I'm a Link fan too. See, he's right there. Link fan. Hey, thanks for the sub, Prime. Appreciate it. Thanks for I'm a Link fan too. I have pictures of Link and Legend of Zelda up in my room. Well, you can't see him. But anyways, what I was saying is that, they've made things, there are more on the, custom roll your own, but wrapped it up in a consumer friendly package. But is it for, is it for someone who's never done anything like that before? Maybe not. Is it for someone who doesn't do a lot of tech? Maybe not. But is it for someone who's interested in tech, who is actually knows what TrueNAS is and can decide between those two products? It might be. It might be. So it's a good question to ask yourself. I just invite you to do some research and look it up and know that both of them are good solutions. And both have a lot of those capabilities you're looking for. Wow. Glooscap, going with that. Hey, thanks for the sub. Really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Anyways, Payas. Is it Payas Media or Palas Media? I'll go with Payas. But hopefully that answers your question. It comes up a lot, and it's really going to boil down to your needs, your hardware requirements, and then the capabilities that you want too. Ilud, if you love his YouTube channel, check out the Discord. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I agree. I agree. I agree, because there are a lot of good discussions that happen in there. I know that, so let's just say like the Discord community isn't like a Tim community. It's more of a huge stack. I hate to use the term full stack because it gets kind of overused in some areas. But truly, I think that our Discord community is a full stack. And I'm not talking about full stack development where you're like, I'm back end, middle tier, front end. No, I'm talking about it's a full stack of all tech you could ever think of from beginning to end. So we have a lot of great people in the community with a lot of great ideas. So I encourage you to join. There's my spiel. I'll probably give one more towards the end. Penguin Airlines. Yeah, you didn't promise the open source. Don't take it critically. Hey, thank you. Yeah, wow, I'm real behind in comments. I totally agree. That was my first instinct. I'm human. I was like, oh man. But anyways, thank you for that. I appreciate it. Odd West, any tips on moving Unraid to TrueNAS? Oh man. Do I absolutely have to set up ZFS RAID in my TrueNAS to move my data over to Unraid? I think the answer is kind of yes. I don't even think it's a kind of yes. I think the answer is yes. So TrueNAS is going to use ZFS or wants you to use ZFS. Could you do it without it? If it's virtualized, sure, you could find some way to do it. Would you trust it? I don't think I would. And so I kind of get the sentiment that you're going there. And that's one thing that I didn't bring up when people ask me, Unraid versus TrueNAS. ZFS, that's a lot of, in the tech world, especially people in infrastructure, a lot of people like it. If you're newer to it, you're probably like, why the heck do I need to allocate 32 gigs of RAM to this thing? And so if you haven't used it before, from the outside, it looks like, man, this requires a lot of resources. And it does. You can get by with less RAM. I'll say that. You can get by with less RAM. It just means less stuff that's going to be cached. But you shouldn't, starve that system of RAM if you're going to go with ZFS. So I'm not the ZFS expert, but I will say, I had those same concerns when I moved to TrueNAS. And I shouldn't even say to TrueNAS. I had those same concerns when deciding between hardware RAID, JBOD software RAID, and ZFS RAID. Another software RAID, but different tech. And so I had those same concerns. I was like, well, do I really need 32 gigs of RAM for, this big, tank of a volume? And, it can be tuned, but at the end of the day, there are a lot of benefits from doing that. So I know that can be a non-starter for some people. And to answer your question directly, is there, do I have any tips? I would. My only tips would be to make sure that that's what you want to do. Make sure that there's a one-to-one solution. When moving from this platform to this platform, make sure there's a one-to-one, almost a one-to-one solution on that new platform. And if there's not, figure out a mitigation plan, like what you're gonna do to mitigate or to supplement that feature that might not be there. Maybe you don't care about it. But really, it's just going to be looking at the matrix of features and saying, oh yeah, plugins, okay, jails, okay, Docker containers, jails, and mapping it that way. ZFS doesn't support JBOD right now. That might be something you're used to on Unraid, and a huge reason why people do it. But yeah, I'm sure there are a lot of great opinions of people who also have done this migration in a Discord server. I haven't done that migration. I haven't even used Unraid, but I'm very familiar with it from how much people talk about it and how much I look into it. You know, I keep my finger on the pulse of Unraid when I can, because I think it's awesome what they're doing. They turned a business into, you know, they made a business out of software that, you know, is NAS software. So it's pretty cool. Well, Norton Tech. UniFi is super expensive. Must be awesome. You can get 4K PoE cam for $75 US. How much was it for the 1080p cam from UniFi Norton Tech? Expensive is a relative term. I'll say that. You know, what's expensive is, you know, it's all relative. Let me think. The 1080p cams that I got were $79 a piece, except for the Mini. The Mini was $29, and I think they're trying to compete with Wise, right? They just saw that Wise, they've been seeing that Wise has been releasing these low-cost cameras, and they were like, we kind of got to compete in this space just to get people's foot in the door. And so one camera was $29. I think that's not going to be the first thing we see from them that is in that price point. The other ones were $79 a piece, or you can get 3 for $229 or something like that. So, that strikes a chord with me because, you know, I still have my old security system running in place. It's still running. I didn't take it down. I'm not going to. I mean, to me, there's no cost of running it a little bit, you know, longer, other than, you know, some extra compute and some additional power, some maintenance on that virtual machine that's running, but very low cost for me to keep that running. I think that kind of hits at part of the sentiment as to why I kind of went that way is because, you know, I have a bunch of random cameras from manufacturers. I have no idea. I mean, I know who they are, but do I trust them? Not one bit. Who haven't updated their firmware in 5, 6, 7, 10 years, who knows how long. And I'm sure they're okay and they're doing the right thing, but, you know, these cameras aren't even maintained or even listed on some of these manufacturers' sites anymore. If I can even find the manufacturer site, which in some cases I can't. And so I know that I could find cheaper cameras and I could do cheaper things. There's always going to be someone cheaper. You know, I'll probably find a camera that's 4K for less than 75, and I would say that your choice is expensive. But at the end of the day, I just wanted to, I didn't want to be in the firmware updating password manager business anymore for 4 different brands of cameras. You know, I got tired of it, and I get it. Like, yeah, I can configure one account on all those cameras for, you know, Blue Iris specifically, and then configure one for me, and then one, you know, just a lot of management. So anyways, maybe I'm trying to justify, but I've been living this for a long time. I mean, I've run Blue Iris for 7 years, 8 years. So it's not my first rodeo with PoE cameras, with wireless cameras, or even with configuring those systems. So don't get me wrong, it's a fine product. Not too much wrong with that product. I mean, I have criticisms, which I think are fair. But for me, it's the cameras. I mean, if Blue Iris would make cameras, and if Blue Iris would get into the hardware business, I know they're a small company, a software company. I don't even know, 1, 2, 3 people. It's probably a lot. But, you know, if someone would certify their cameras and give me complete control over those cameras, updates, passwords, you name it, all through Blue Iris, I wouldn't be in this situation right now. And it's not that Blue Iris is a bad product. It's a fine product. Like I said, I've used it for years. I subscribe. I pay money for it every year. It's just that the cameras that I have to connect to it, I'm tired of buying Joe Schmo camera next year and then worrying about all of the stuff I have to worry about, from passwords to firmware to no firmware. And I get it. Like, you know, those cameras are on isolated VLAN. They're totally isolated from the rest of my network. They don't have access to the internet, but still, you know, that's a real concern of mine, and it has been. So anyways, long story short, those 1080p ones, $79. You can get them cheaper if you bundle them in 3. But yeah. I love camera security, so I can talk about this stuff all day because I've been doing it for a long time. I love it. I love it so much. And maybe that's why I was so excited for this video. I won't harp on it. Mr. Hodge, hi all, having a blast with my R410 lately. Nice, yeah. So is that a 1U? Is that a 1U? I need Penguin Airlines. He knows the model numbers and how many how many spaces they take up. Puppy's barking. He's not liking something. Let's see here. Darkvex, hey Tim, what do you think about Falco project for secure Kubernetes clusters and Linux host? I don't know about the Falco project. I should know more about it. Don't know enough about it. If it's a secure Kubernetes cluster and Linux host, it's probably a good thing. It's probably a good thing because I've been evaluating security for my own cluster. Because I've been, and you've probably seen my brain dump in Discord of trying to figure out new cluster versus namespace with network security policy, and then maybe sprinkle in Istio, but I don't want to go that far yet. Don't get me wrong, Istio is a fine product, and it's fantastic, but I just didn't want to go that far at home yet. So if it gives me better security and it's easy, if it's a bolt-on, yeah, I'm all for it. I'm all for it. Why not? Because those are the things I'm struggling with right now. New cluster, new namespace, network security policy. How do I ensure that these, I want, these clusters to communicate over SSL, which I think Istio gives me. I don't want these two pods to communicate with each other because they're totally separate workloads. I can create namespaces for them all, but that only gives me so much. That just gives me some segmentation from namespaces, but it doesn't really give me, the security I want from it. So, that's where I was looking in a network policy. So Darkvex, if Falco solves a lot of the stuff I'm thinking about, or even if it solves stuff I'm not thinking about, I'm all for it. So yeah, I mean, how can you say no to, secure Kubernetes? I mean, that's kind of hard. I will look into it though. Thank you for that. Hey, Dex Vinyl, thank you so much. Tier 1, 2 months. Thanks for the continued support. Really appreciate it. Really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Chris Palid, thank you for the follow. Appreciate it. And Zopenko. I need to say that better. Let me know how to pronounce it. I'm going to go with Zopenko. Zopenko, hey, thanks for the follow. Appreciate it. Welcome. Penguin Airlines, way too much research. LOL. I always neglect considering my time when researching for parts. LOL, yeah. Just spent half an hour picking out a $5 step down voltage converter. But I love it though, because then you will know the best one and why. You will know the best one and why. So when I get to this point, I'm going to be like, hey, do you got time for a Zoom call or a Discord chat? And why did you pick these things? I mean, it's the same reason why I think a lot of people probably ask you or anyone in the tech industry for personal recommendations, right? Because it's, hey, I've done the research, I've experienced it myself. And so I always appreciate personal recommendations. And so, yeah, absolutely. I'm going to come knocking at your door when we get to that point. Hey, Dragoonator, sub to me, Prime. Thank you so much. Man, you guys are so generous. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Cloud Bedrock. I have a 42U enclosed coming. Nice. Oh, I'm so jealous. I'm being so nitpicky about my 18U. If I just had 42U, I could just keep slamming stuff in there. I should have gone with my son. Wait, I should have my son go crazy with RGB on it. LOL. Yeah. Let him, because I think that'll be it'll be fun. It'll be something that, I mean, I don't know if your son is interested in servers and self-hosting and just infrastructure in general. I think that would be a good, nice little gateway or something you guys can do together to hopefully inspire him and have him be interested in this stuff. Yeah, if I had a son, he was like, can I put RGB on your servers? I'd be like, go for it. Go for it. iLude, most folks go to TrueNAS because of ZFS. Yeah, and while I believe you can't use it without it, you lose some of the bells and whistles TrueNAS brings to the table. Yeah, good call, because you lose stuff, snapshots and all kinds of stuff if you don't go with ZFS. I don't even know if it's an option. I think that's what you're hinting at too. But if you were to choose not to, if you could choose not to, you would lose out on some of the features. Yeah, good call. Penguin Airlines, but yeah, I never settle. Only the best. Exactly why. hate to waste in the long run. I do too. I hear you. Pizza Geek, my thought too, try to get something that isn't cheapest yet not the most expensive. Overinflated costs will still last a good amount of time. Yeah, 100% agree. 100% agree to that. Cloud Bedrock, this is for business. All right, my startup was acquired by a public company and now I'm building the next big thing. I like this. All right. The TrueNAS Mini is the lower end of the IX Systems hardware. Exactly. Cool. I'm not familiar with their enterprise offerings. I should be more as much as I use their software. I think I've seen some of the, I think I saw a tweet from IX Systems about this, but I don't recall. But awesome. Hardware from IX Systems. Awesome. So running TrueNAS like enterprise. Awesome. More for my Soho. Nice. This is for business use and my home as I develop from home. All right. I like this. I like where this is going. Cloud Bedrock. XCP-ng is something I'm digging into. Interesting. All right. My interest is peak. Much more experience with public cloud. Last company was a hybrid cloud. I stood up. Man, this is awesome. I'm loving the experience in here. Love the perspective too. So if you stood up a whole entire company and you have lots of experience with public cloud and then making an XCP-ng choice, yeah, I'd love to hear your more of your opinion at some point. Dell Champs. SaltStack can do package upgrades across multiple distro types with one command. All right, I hear lots about SaltStack. I can't remember who bought it. So SaltStack is it's not a one-to-one alternative to Ansible, but trying to accomplish the same thing. I think I don't remember if that's agentless or not. I don't think it is. Correct me if I'm wrong. But that's awesome. That's awesome because that's kind of, I think, the holy grail. What I'm looking for. I don't care what module I use. I just want to say, hey, everything I own, upgrade. You figure it out. You figure it out. Ain't nobody got time for that. No, I'm kidding. I got time. Well, I don't have time for it, but I figured it out. And so that's what I struggle with my roles is like, okay, now it's like role per OS when I might have, cross-platform things running. Like, I could have, say for instance, Kubernetes on Windows. I could have a Windows node for whatever reason, and if I give my Ansible role of a Kubernetes node, well then that kind of blocks out updating. So then I have to have a workload or a what's it called? A role that's just Kubernetes Windows node and Kubernetes Ubuntu node and Kubernetes CentOS node, and I don't want that. I just want to say Kubernetes node and say have an upgrade module and just say upgrade. Do your Windows update, do your Yum package update, do your apt update. I don't care. Just figure it out. And so I guess you're saying, yeah, SaltStack has something you can do that's cross-platform like that. I think it's cool. And not that I have a Windows Kubernetes node, but I could, because there are pieces of software that, want to run on Windows. And I think that's, and you can do that with Rancher too. Homelab new, thoughts on the UniFi breach? Did it impact your choice at UniFi Protect at all? Yeah, this is a great question. Sorry, happens every time. Anyways, so the UniFi breach, like I'm familiar with it. I saw, well, I'll rewind a little bit. I got the email from UniFi. I was like, great. It's the first thing you think of when you get it, especially some company that you're using their software and services. So my first reaction was, great. I'm going to go reset my password. Well, I think everyone else was doing that at the same time too. So I wasn't getting any password reset emails. So I'm like, okay, I'll log in with my current credentials. I'll reset my account. Then I'll reset my two-factor auth. Then I'll log back out. Then obviously that invalidated all of my sessions anywhere. So I felt a little bit better. And then I just kind of thought about it for a little bit. And, shortly after Lawrence Systems, Tom, he released a video on it, which was super informative, which they always are. I just kind of reflected on it a little bit and, it sucks that it happened. It's only a matter of time till it happens to a lot of companies. King Jasper, hey, thanks for the follow, appreciate it. So it's only a matter of time until it happens to a lot of companies. The bigger you are, I think the bigger your target is. And so you have to have lots of things in place to prevent that, which equals lots and lots of money to pay for that labor and that tech and all of the things that come along with, mitigating those threats. And so when that came out, did it impact my choice? It didn't. I don't remember exactly which day, but I think my order was already placed. I think my order was already placed, and so it didn't. You know, and I'm definitely not making excuses for them. And you know, it was something with their hosting provider, not necessarily them themselves, and that makes no excuse. But anyways, it didn't impact my decision. You know, when I start thinking about people in this space, you know, it's going to happen, unfortunately, to a lot of companies, especially when it comes to, you know, very sensitive data. The more sensitive the data, I think the more often this is going to happen. So it could happen to anyone doing video, voice, data, files, anything. Anybody anywhere is a target. So it's unfortunate that happened. It didn't really impact I was like, great, now this is, you know, now I have to worry about this. You know, and yeah, I mean, I don't know what else to say. It didn't impact my decision. It's unfortunate that it happened. If it continues to happen, I'll reevaluate my decision for sure, because that can't happen. I mean, when you buy a product from a company and you put your trust in that company for your data, and whether that data be documents, pictures, images, video, voice, I mean, you still expect them to treat your data with the utmost respect and keep it private, keep it secure. And, you know, any kind of breach or leak like that is unfortunate. And it sucks. I don't know how else to say it. It really sucks. It sucks for them. It sucks for me. It sucks for everyone who's involved. So anyways, I think I made my decision before that. I can't remember if the order was placed or not. And actually, my order took a little bit longer because I was able to get one of those cameras. And I think that delayed my order. So I mean, could I have backed out? Sure. But was that going to be the decision for me to back out? It wasn't, because, you know, I have other things in their ecosystem now too. You know, I have UDM Pro. It's not just doing Protect, you know, and I have a UniFi switch that's, you know, running the UniFi network. Well, actually UDM Pro is running it, but still part of the same ecosystem. And so if it continues to happen, yeah, I'm not making excuses for them. That really sucks. There should have been measures in place to prevent that. And I will say that they were able to detect it. Most of the time with a lot of companies, they don't even have the tech to detect that stuff or know or say. So a lot of respect to them for coming out and saying it. Who knows how long they sat on it? I won't really debate or speculate, but you know, it happens. Some companies never know. Some companies never say. So I guess there's that. So anyways, let's see. Thunderstorm. Basically just using roles for certain OS role types. Yeah, RHEL. Okay. Red Hat Enterprise, CentOS, Arch, and Windows. The cross-platform module would be great. I haven't come across such a thing. Yeah, I was just rambling about that. Yeah, and that's why I kind of, you know, and being the programmer in me, and so I don't have roles, so I never was like, this is my one role and this is my other role. Because, you know, there's a concept in programming and a lot of other things, you know, dry up your code, dry it up, which is do not repeat yourself. So do not repeat yourself. And I felt like as soon as I moved to roles, I was going to repeat myself, because I was going to say this Ubuntu server has an apt update and it has whatever K3s update, and it has all of these individual components that some of the other ones would have. And so, you know, I still kept mine super modular, and I don't use roles yet. And I just fire off each individual module, my own, I guess, mini role. But yeah, it's the programmer in me where I just want to be able to inherit all these things. I want to someday just say like, hey, you're a Kubernetes node, inherit all these other files and go. You know, and just list those files, and instead of repeating those steps or those modules in every single workload. And maybe that's a thing. Or maybe I need to write something up to do it. But I just didn't want to repeat myself over and over and over. And plus, like, I you know, the update thing, that's where I was kind of like, is there something better? Norton Tech, can UniFi Protect's cans do object detection? They can. They can if there's a big if there. Let me get a drink. So I think they can do smart detection and object detection if you get a G4. So I mean, don't quote me on this, but I kind of think that's how it works. Is that once you get the G4, the higher end model, you get some additional tech on there. And so if you think about object detection, how it works on a lot of places, they do object detection in the cloud, right? It's just how it works. Like most cameras don't have the tech on device to do this object detection. So when I say cloud, if you self-host something and you do some additional processing there, that's, I guess, in your personal cloud. But I guess my point is the additional processing usually goes somewhere else to do that object detection, because they have a trained model for, I don't know, machine learning. They have a trained model to say this is the cat, this is the dog, this is the person, this is whatever. And so they have to look at that image, analyze it, and then compare it against their model and say, yep, this is this thing with this degree of confidence. And then they'll tell you this is a cat, this is the dog, whatever, this is an object. And it's not just a shadow moving from a tree. So anyways, I'm totally speculating, but I can, well, this isn't speculation. I can only get the object detection or the smart alerts, which I think is object detection, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, if I go to the G4 model. And so I was like, well, I'm kind of dabbling my toes in this. I don't want to go for the expensive model right now. And I also have a feeling that they're going to start dropping cost with this latest mini camera. But anyways, that's an aside. That's all speculation too. But I think that I only get that tech on that G4. And I think the reason why they're more expensive is because they're actually there's a chip or something inside of that camera that can do that additional processing. Totally speculating. I don't know exactly how their tech works. But if they're saying only this camera, I assume that's a hardware limitation in my head, and that's why they're more expensive. So for me, the cool thing is though, at least for me, what I thought was cool, it does this whole entire heat map, and in that video, it's like as it's triggering, it's really cool. Like it'll show a heat map of the object that was moving, not the object, but the motion for the alert. So as my dog's like going around the corner and going in the kitchen, I just see this little blue and red streak going through and going into the kitchen. It's really cool to look at, and you can see when I'm doing a lot of hand waving. There's a heat map of everything it detected. I know that's not object detection. That's just motion detection. But I'm totally speculating. But I think that's why you get it on the G4. Should probably read into it, is because there's a hardware piece that comes into play. And I think that hardware piece comes into play is because they're doing all the processing on the camera rather than back on the device. Maybe it's on my UDM. I doubt it. And I think that's why it costs a little bit more. And you got to think this is, yes, they are cloud enabled where I can reach them through the cloud if I want. But the rest of it's on-prem. And so I think that's why, again, speculating, I think that's why the G4s, you need a G4 because it needs a little extra requirement because they're not sending that up to the cloud to process it like a lot of other places do. Let's see, Tayum. What do you say about 3.6K open issues on the Rancher repo? Yeah, I don't know. What do you say about any open source project that has, thousands of users and open issues? I mean, that could be a sign of a couple things. So again, not making excuses for them, but I've run, internal projects on GitHub. I've run external projects on GitHub. That is one metric or one sign of project health is how many open issues do they have, which then incentivizes people to close issues. And so I would be careful what you wish for when you look at that, because if you start incentivizing people to close issues, then you start to incentivize people to close issues of real issues without resolution. And so, you could look at 3.6K open issues and say, here's a lot of people who found bugs, who care about this thing, and you could look at it like, okay, Rancher has identified this as an issue, and they're going to fix it, or at least leave it here so someone can find it and maybe fix it themselves. Or you can look at it like, man, they're not managing this project at all. No one cares about these open issues, and no one's even closing them. And maybe they haven't implemented the stale bot. I mean, people hate the stale bot in GitHub or any source code repo that you use. I mean, even internally when I worked on stuff on a GitHub or GitLab or whatever, when you have open issues that are open for so long, it's like, okay, it could be an issue anymore, but does anyone care anymore? And so I would just caution, be careful what you wish for, because if that said 1 and there were 3,500,999 issues closed, and you just never looked at the close and the resolution as to why they were closed, you might, be missing out on something. So I will say that's just one piece of the metric for, overall source code health, just one input, one metric. But you also have to look into, how they're mitigating or remediating those issues. Because if they implement the stale bot and they're like, if no one's commented on this thing in 30 days, they might have 2,000 closed issues just by implementing stale bot. And maybe they have it. I'm just speculating. I'm speaking more broadly about open source projects in general, or projects managed around source code. So anyways, I never look at issues and I'm like, hey, real quick, Porch Logic, thanks for the follow. Appreciate it. So another sign of good health for a project for open source, and what I typically look at, so you're right. So one, I do look at issues. How many issues are open? How many are resolved? So I looked at the close too. That's usually where I check. So I evaluate open source all the time. I'm like, should I choose this versus this? I look at stars. That's one input. You can't help but look at stars. How many stars does this thing have? The next thing I look at is, how many issues are open? But also I look at how many are closed. But I think the very first thing I do, it's hard not to notice stars because you land on a repo and you see stars. But the very first thing I do consciously is look at their last commit. And that tells me that that project is at least kind of healthy. And so I'll look through their commit history and say, yes, there were commits a couple months ago. No, there haven't been commits in 2 years. Probably not going to use it if it's not in 2 years, because who knows? Who knows what may or may not be working with this project. And that's not to say, again, it's just another input, one signal into code health. It could be a lot of things. Anyways, that's good to think through. I never thought about my process. I know my process, but I never talked about it, I guess, or shared it. So thanks for bringing that up. I would just say, like any project, do your research. Look at all those things. There are probably tons of other metrics I'm not even thinking about. Like, tags is another one. It's one thing if you commit to a repo. It's another thing if you tag and release it. So if there are lots of commits and no releases, either they're working towards a release or they're just not planning on releases. So, all things to consider when looking or evaluating projects on GitHub or GitLab or anywhere, any source code repo that does similar things. Penguin Airlines. Okay. I think I settled on this board purchase. All right. But the new model I want is out of stock. It will be worth waiting on, though, as I will say 50 overall. Now, cat has me stuck. My keyboard parts came in, but I need to get a decent fume extractor. Anyone have any recommendations? I don't even know anything about this. I would love to know more. Oh, gosh. Hairy Butts. How's it going? Funny story. I got a funny story around Hairy Butts, but I won't tell it now. Spelled very similarly. But anyways, hi Tim. I'm setting up a MikroTik Cloud Core router with Zixel managed switch. Should I set up VLANs on the switch or on the router? Yeah, good question. I have mine on my main router. I'm not saying that works everywhere, but I have mine on my main router and they trickle through to, I guess, then to my switch so that I can configure them per port if I want. There's a lot of people that are really strong in networking in this channel, and I invite you to chime in if you know. But Hairy Butts, me personally, I set it up on my router. They trickle through, and then I can just manage them from anywhere and apply them if I need to. But no, MikroTik Cloud Core router with Zixel managed switch sounds super awesome. But let me know if you're still here and you still have questions. Let's see. Okay, let's go. Let me find this. Homelab new. Think Minecraft is a heavily bound by thread performance. Don't think it'd be scaled out. That's kind of what my thinking was too. Penguin Airlines. Linode has some Kate designated hosting. Nice. And you even pay for the worker nodes only, not the controllers. Awesome. Did not know that. Yeah, Linode, another good resource for cloud or remote computing for sure. Norton Tech, regarding Kubernetes HA cluster self-hosted, how many physical machines do you need with at least 3 for quorum? How many physical? That one's tough. I mean, I would just go into how many nodes do you need for quorum, and that's usually 3. But an HA cluster self-hosted of Kubernetes, to be honest, you don't need any physical machines. So I would take out physical and just say, how many nodes do you need for quorum? With Kubernetes, it's going to be 3, depending on which distribution of Kubernetes you're using. So if you're using a distribution of Kubernetes that uses etcd, or I think even K3s now can do HA with SQLite, you need 3. But the way I do it, and I know that this isn't the way that everyone does it, is I use K3s with MySQL, so an external database. So I only need 2 because my database counts as 1. My database is kind of the source of truth. So, but that's I pulled in another requirement for database and everything you got to do around there for high availability to make sure that the database isn't down. So for me, K3s with MySQL, it's 2. For most Kubernetes stuff, you need 3. Correct me if I'm wrong. Uma and Tanium. I'm working on a project to real-time process the nth frame of a video stream. I like this. I am planning to send frames to Kafka stream and consume frames in many containers in Kubernetes. Is this a good idea? Huh. I don't know. Let's see. I'm planning to send frames to Kafka stream. Okay, I get that. And frames and consume frames in many containers in Kubernetes. Is this a good idea? I mean, it depends. I mean, do you need the availability that Kubernetes is going to give that you get from Kubernetes? Do you need that availability? If they're all going to send it to Kafka anyways, at the end of the day, Kafka is going to figure out the order in which the events came in and toss out any that are duplicates, or rectify the order of events and the message events that come in. And so, yeah, you might be sending duplicates to containers, and containers might get there in different orders, but Kafka will kind of figure it out. And I'm oversimplifying what Kafka is going to do. But is it a good idea? I mean, it just depends. Do you have Kubernetes infrastructure in place? Are all of those pods able to take on, frames, or let's just say requests from an external source at any time in any order? Are they totally stateless? Because these are the things you're going to have to figure out if they're not. If they're stateful, that adds a lot of complexity to pods. And this is where, whatever your state bag is, or wherever that's stored, if it's on a volume or somewhere else, you're going to have to figure all that out. So, I mean, generally, I think, if you have the infrastructure in place and it is a stateless application, I think why not? Because it's incremental to add something else to it. But if you don't have that infrastructure in place and it is stateful, it may not be the best use case. It may not be the deciding factor if I'm going to go and build out a whole entire Kubernetes cluster just for this thing. If I have it in place, I have a load balancer in place, they're stateless apps, their Docker containers are ready, or name your containerization, whatever, containerd or whatever it is, whatever runtime you're using, then yeah, I would say go for it, because it's just incremental. You manage the care and feeding is just like anything else you're running in Kubernetes. Why not? Why do a one-off? But if Kubernetes is your one-off, that's a big one-off. And so I wouldn't scale out the whole entire thing just to get it in Kubernetes. It sounds like you have some things in place already. And then you got to think about, I guess throughput, but it should be fine. I don't know what those frames are. They big? Are they small? It should be fine. They're probably doing, I assume, some processing on them before it sends it to Kafka. Maybe not. Is Kafka just, are they sending the actual image to it, or the frame itself? This is sounding super interesting, because I've only done like data messages to Kafka, nothing other than, I guess, depending on how you encode that image. If you base 64 encode it, I guess that's data too. But anyways, lots of considerations there, lots of things to think about. iLood, you can run the whole cluster on a single machine under hypervisor like Proxmox. Yeah, for sure. That's where I was going with bare metal. Like, it doesn't have to be. FE Twitch. Dang, that Dang that mental gymnastics. Oh, I feel like mental gymnastics all the time. Oh yeah, I did the reveal. I am so far behind. I do need to catch up. TBS backer, great idea. Always fun to learn new stuff. If you need help at any point, hit up the Discord. Always there to ensure. Always there to help with stuff. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much. Holy Merc, don't pull a Linus move and drop the GPU. No way, no way. I feel super nervous about it just being right here. I mean, it's still standing kind of vertically. Well, not vertically. Well, yeah, it is. I feel super nervous about it being right here because it's just, you know, these fan fins are fragile, and if I bust a fan fin, that's gonna mess everything up. So yeah. Let's see here. MMY, hi. Can you make a series about Argo CD and Tecton? Maybe. I don't know enough about Argo CD and Tecton. I'd have to learn more at first. And you know, a lot of the stuff I do are things I'm gonna implement. So then at least I can kind of understand them and talk intelligently about them. So most of the time I don't have a hard requirement, but most of the time it's things I'm going to implement myself. But I'll look into it for sure. Argo CD and Tecton. Oh, my pen is behind the card and I am not going to grab it because I don't want to knock anything over. Want to get the trolls all riled up. Live stream 3090 sitting in that box with a UniFi camera. I like where this is going. I like where it's going. I should have done that, man. Man, you need to toss out these ideas ahead of time. But yeah, I don't mean to, you know, I honestly wasn't trying to tease when I sent that out. I thought I was gonna honestly put it in my machine, but you know, I just didn't want to like worry about my environment. You know, I consider this my local dev machine. It's my local dev machine for a lot, even for my videos. You know, this is my dev machine where it's like, I don't want to mess up my dev environment. I don't want to make changes to my environment until I'm ready for those next changes. So I was looking at the next video like a software release where it's like, okay, I'm not going to make any major changes because with a deadline like I have, I got to get it out. Maybe I'm thinking about this way all too wrong. I don't know. Let's see here. Mr. Hodge, Minecraft RTX justifies the purpose. Yeah, I know. Ray tracing in Minecraft. That's about all I can say I'm going to get out of it as far as gaming. Norton Tech Suite, congrats for that. You can also do a CUDA, real-time AI object detection with that. I know. I've been looking at it. Yep, for sure. A tensor. Tech Freaks Gaming. GUI tool I built around Terraform and PowerShell are all built into a nice C# remote app. Yeah, cloud is expensive. It can be like $45K a month for this farm. Place I work at is going full Azure, close to the data centers. Yeah, and that's what I was saying. Like, you know, cloud. Yeah, it's expensive. It's expensive once you scale out a couple of things. You know, if you're doing one or two things there, you know, you could totally justify the cost with power. But then after you start to get, you know, considerably, you know, depending on your workloads that you're setting up there, you know, I mean, maybe the ROI is there for large businesses. And there's ways to say that, you know, they're saving a lot of money, but for mid-size, man, it's kind of tough. It's kind of expensive. But then again, you don't have to have data centers with servers running and all of that. But yeah, it depends on how you look at it. The beaver. Yeah, I wasn't sure about the beaver either. I'm still like, wow, I don't see it. SVid, recently started watching you and I can support the Johnny Depp look. Yeah, people do that all the time. Put that guy in timeout. Penguin Airlines. Oh, is that coffee berry? Aha, yeah, stuff tastes like Tootsie Rolls. I didn't think about that. But yeah, this is my, I say this a lot, but this is like my unkept secret. This was the one aha that would never sell out. But now it's like the first to sell out. And so, you know, I'm a huge fan. I love it because it has a little caffeine. I thought that the taste would be weird with cherry and coffee combined, but it turns out it's actually delicious. And I think my initial reaction to what it would taste like is the same reaction that most consumers have when they see it on the shelf. Like, ooh, I don't know about cherry coffee. I'll pass. And so for me, for a long time, it was like, great, this is the one I like. And I'm going to pick up lots of them. And I think the secret's out now. Norton Tech, you should make a Home Assistant Kubernetes cluster video, always on home automation. Got one already. I'm already there. It's not full clusterized. Let me grab a drink. And there are some quirks because Home Assistant themselves are the HA. I don't know. Home Assistant has, I think, a couple flavors. But they actually use Docker within one of their flavors, and so I haven't figured out a great solution for that because a lot of their plugins use Docker themselves, so it's kind of gets to inception, and so they don't support some features if you Dockerize it yourself or containerize it yourself. You have to go through their HAS.io, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong. Huge fan of ES6i. Yeah, I am too. This thing performs for sure. MB Round, what are your thoughts on Kubernetes? Oh, got lots of them. It's, I use it a lot. I run it at home. I have videos on it. I run it at work. I run it in the cloud. I run it bare metal. I run it, I haven't done hybrid yet. Hybrid is something that I want to do, but I need something to force me to do a hybrid. And so hybrid for me will be running some user workloads in the cloud, and more so for availability, and more so if I move. I need to figure out a way to shift some of my stuff to the cloud for the time it takes to move. Not that I'm moving anytime soon, but it's kind of we're just leaving our options open. And so if that happens, I'll have to think about cloud because I'll pull the plug on my fiber modem one day here someday, and I need to figure out how to keep some of my services running. Amiens. I do the same thing. I use 3 RPIs to run services and a Synology NAS just to store things. Nice. Yeah, thanks, Penguin Airlines. Tim is a huge Kubernetes fan, lots of videos. Yeah, for sure. Effie Twitch, do you use pfSense in conjunction with UniFi? I don't. I used to. Yeah, so I don't anymore. I used to. I still could put it as like one of my main routers for some of my VLANs. If I really wanted to get complicated, I could, but I don't. I miss it. I used that for a long time. I used Sophos XG for a long time. They were both virtualized. It was super fun. But anyways, I don't anymore because I'm using UniFi. So I'm using their gateway solution, routing solution, and everything else solution. Maybe I'm putting all my too many eggs in one basket, but I kind of like the simplicity of some things. Melon Dice, Tim, have you considered doing a video on Kubernetes logging, FluentD cataloging, or similar? Yes, I have. Absolutely, I have. So I have. I'll just put it there. I have. I haven't settled myself on FluentD, Prometheus. I'll just stop with those two because they're two really big and popular logging, graphing, monitoring, and then you get visualization behind them solutions. I haven't put one together yet. I want to make sure that what I'm doing is solid, and I want to make sure that I'm giving I guess a recommendation. You could say that a lot of my videos are recommendations, personal recommendation. I mean, most people know that, hey, this guy on the internet did it. He has a video on how to do it, and then my piece is like, yeah, I'm still doing it for the most part. And so I just want to make sure that it's solid, and I just kind of hope that people aren't getting burned out on Rancher stuff, to be honest. I'm not. I love it. I'm excited about it. But yeah, I mean, truth be told, not that video performance is an indicator of what I'll do next, but they don't perform as well. I'm super excited about it. I love it. I wish more people were excited about it, but I think the combination of it being Kubernetes and then the combination of it being Rancher 2, this other thing they haven't heard of before, is a lot for them to take on. And so, anyways, I'm feel like this is therapy. It's not meant to be. But anyways, I will, I have, but I want to make sure I give a good recommendation first because I haven't decided between FluentD and Prometheus, and maybe I don't need to choose. Maybe there's a way to do both. I'm sure there is, but I kind of want unified logging and unified metrics across not only my Kubernetes clusters, but my virtual machines as well, and maybe some physical machines. Maybe this Raspberry Pi back here. Maybe I want to see metrics for that or logging for that. So I kind of have been rolling, universal logging, universal metrics. It's all. I don't want to say the same, but the same types of tasks. I want to be able to dump them into something like Elastic or whatever. Name your data store, and then analyze that. Have some visualizations, as well as logging too, because that's something that as you hinted at here, it's something that's tough. It's tough to do. I would love to be able to search my logs across all my devices. It's not something I have right now, and I just want to figure out the best way forward. A lot of the times, the places where I work, those decisions were made. And so those solutions were in place. And so, a lot of my experience is based on what other companies had or what they provided for me or what the cloud provider gives me, and so you're kind of forced to use those tools. So there are very few times in my life where I've had to make those decisions. I made that decision before a while ago. I used Splunk for a long time, and I set up syslog on all my stuff. This was before I was containerizing stuff. I piped out all of I installed an agent on all my virtual machines, physical machines too, and then piped it out to syslog and dumped it in Splunk. And then obviously Splunk for the free version has a limit on how many logs they can ingest per day. But it was pretty awesome until I turned on Windows and put it in like info mode. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's how I exceeded my limit. Nothing against Windows, but yeah, might want to just turn on critical logs or error only. Anyways, long story short, I want to make sure that I have a robust solution and that I'm using, so I can give a really good recommendation on it. I know that there are options out there, and rather than explore both options in one video, and maybe that's what I'll do, I'd love to say I chose this one for a reason. Here are the reasons why. If you don't want to choose this one, here's the other one and reasons why, but more focus on why I chose this one and kind of do it end to end. Anyways, long answer. It's absolutely on my radar. I just want to make sure it's pretty sound. Mio-same. Hey, thanks for the follow. Appreciate it. And pickle. If that's pickle, that is awesome. I love how you spell it. Piqcyl. Pickle. I'm going with pickle because it looks awesome. Anyways, thanks for the follow. Appreciate it. Welcome. Pius Media. I'm going with Pius until you tell me different. Thanks for the info. I just want storage plus Plex capability. So sounds like TrueNAS will do that. I will go with, especially since I have server sitting in the bedroom, I want to put Proxmox on. Yeah, and so, you could, this is going to be part of your evaluation, but, both products offer an evaluation of their software. I think you're talking about TrueNAS versus Unraid, right? And so you can evaluate Unraid, I think, for 30 days before, I don't know what happens, it goes in lockdown mode, or I don't know what happens. But you can try it for 30 days and see if it works for you. TrueNAS you can try forever because it's open source, and so you're going to get those features too. And so you could start with, either one and then change and evaluate the other one. I think one is just time-based though. I think, don't quote me on that. I think it's 30 days. Maybe it's 60. I'm not sure. Just enough to get everything configured and try it out to then make you pay for it. But it sounds like you're well on your way to figuring it out. FE Twitch. If you have one machine, Unraid, it is incredibly easy to use. There we go. Personal recommendations. Love it. I start with 3 drives, 1 for cache for Dockers, and you are good to go. Nice. And add 1 drive at a time. There you go. See, this is part of why I think people like Unraid, choose Unraid, right? The simplicity. And I think the JBOD is a large portion of that, and an all-in-one solution. And they figured out a lot of the hard stuff too. UniFi Twitch, virtualize Unraid and Proxmox. And now that's something I didn't think about. I might have, but then you might lose out on the virtualization piece if that's what you want to do, unless you do pass-through virtualization, or I forget what it's called. There's a technical term for it. Salvarius, I used to have a full head of hair until I attempted GPU pass-through. Yeah, I know, it's tough. It's tough and it stinks, but once you get it, it's awesome. And then once you do get it, copy your VM config and save it somewhere and remember it forever, and refer to that next time you do it rather than the UI, because you can miss checkboxes in the advanced section on the UI like I did for 10-15 minutes. And I'm like, why isn't this working? I've done this 4 times already. 5th time should just be easy breezy. But I missed a checkbox, and that actual checkbox equates to a flag in the config. And if you just copy and paste the config from the old one, minus, some GUIDs in there, it should work. Six Sniper. I'm working on a PC also. All right, I'm on a PC too right now. Pass through all the HBAs and GPU to the Proxmox VM. All right. Norton Tech. I wouldn't trust NRAID file system. ZFS is far more reliable. I don't know what file system they use, but yeah, no comment. I'm not sure about what they use. I know that ZFS is very reliable. SVID, would you say passing 2 NICs through in your Proxmox is hard? I've ordered a new NIC. Will virtualize my pfSense setup next week. Is it hard? No. Is it any harder than one? No, not really. I will say that so if you're buying 2 separate ones, it's as easy as one. If you're buying one that has 2 NICs, it's as easy as one. So the hard part is going to be turning on IOMMU. There's a couple things involved, and so you probably want to check these ahead of time. Make sure your motherboard supports IOMMU or pass-through. Make sure your CPU supports IOMMU or pass-through. I think on Intel it's VT-D. Don't remember what it is on AMD, but make sure that those 2 things are there in place first. The next is make sure your motherboard can actually turn it on in the BIOS, and you'll need to turn it on. And then the last thing, if you're using Proxmox, is to actually then turn it on. And so in the wiki, you can find the commands to turn it on, to enable it. After that, easy peasy, unless you want to separate those 2 devices, or one device with 2 devices on one. So if you're going to do something like, hey, I have a 4-port NIC and I want to divide up all of these devices into individual devices and pass those through to individual things, that's where it gets complicated. But one card, no problem. Like one physical card, PCI Express, 0 problems. Unless it's a video card. It's a whole nother section on that. But NICs, super easy. That's why I did it for years and years and years. I loved it. Payas. There we go. Caught up finally. Palace. Okay, Palace Media. I was putting my own spin on it. All right, so Palace, I get it. Like Dallas, but with a P. I get it. So Palace, thank you so much, Palace. Palace Media. It's Palace, not Payas. I like to put my spin on things sometimes. When I'm never sure how to pronounce something, I just throw my spin on it. Yazoo. What do you use to SSH into my servers? SSH. I know I'm not really trolling you, but yeah, I use the SSH client that's built into that comes with a lot of Linux distributions, and so I use WSL, and which is Ubuntu. So and from Ubuntu servers, I just SSH, username at DNS name or IP address, and then provide my SSH key, and I'm in. A lot of Windows folks like to use PuTTY. I used PuTTY for a long time, but ever since, I used Cygwin for a while too. So I do it a lot through the terminal, just because once I get in there, I'm going to be in a terminal anyway. So I just start with a terminal that I like, which is, Windows terminal or iTerm on Mac or whatever terminal application, and SSH from there. So then I don't have a separate tool just for SSHing. I have my terminal that I'm used to for everything else for SSHing. So, but yeah, I mean, you have tons of options there. But I mean, at the end of the day, if you're familiar with the terminal, I would just use a terminal. And if you're on Windows, I would highly recommend just getting WSL so you have an Ubuntu environment or any kind of Linux environment that WSL supports. You can tailor to your need and install whatever plugins you want or whatever shell you want, and then SSH from there. Yeah. That's my take on it. Let's see. Man, I got to get caught up. So much variety today. I love it. These are all replies. I'm going to pass that up. I mean, if I do ever expand, I would have to add a disk array. I'm there. I'm just still, I love my disk array, but I'm always like, how much power is that thing using? I don't know why lately I've just been like, how much power? Because I totally scaled out. Now I'm kind of scaling back, and not in compute or not in capabilities, but scaling back in how much power it's using. Because I pay the electric bill here. Well, we do. I'm just saying it's not free is I guess a better better way to put it. I mean, if I do ever expand, I would have the disk array, which is certainly something I'm thinking about. Yeah, I think we all do. Once you get past like 4 or 5 disks, then you're like, okay, how do I get more disks? And it's not by another case. It's then like, oh, maybe I dedicate whatever for you to a disk shelf or to something else. Let's see. Norton Tech, ZFS only requires lots of RAMs when doing deduplication. Thank you. Thank you for that. UFI Twitch, FE Twitch. But the biggest difference between TrueNAS and Unraid, to me at least, is, at least as a layman, was how to easy expand data from a single drive at a time. Yeah, these are all great questions, or great things to think about. Super glad we have someone who has firsthand experience with Unraid in here, because it comes up a lot, and I don't have firsthand experience, it's just what I read on the internet. You know how that goes. Melondice, Tim, got Longhorn running in my K3S cluster. Nice. Thanks for the video. Are you happy with the write once limitation of Longhorn? Do you just fall back to NFS if you need multiple pods writing to a single volume? Hey, Self-Help Hub. Hey, I like Self-Help Hub. Hey, thanks for the follow. Appreciate it. So I don't think I've run into that limitation. I have to think. So I have traffic that spins up that does a multi-read. I haven't done a multi-write. I'm trying to think where I do a multi-write, because I try to make most of my stuff stateless, and I know that's hard to do. All my custom code, I shouldn't say all of it. A lot of it is stateless. So I mean, to be honest, I think I have 5-6 volumes in Longhorn. They're pretty important. I haven't run into that limitation before, write once limitation. I thought when you provision that persistent volume claim, hey, Palace, there we go. That's all it took. Palace Media, thanks for the subscribe. Tier 1, thank you so much, Palace Media. Sorry for mispronouncing your name for so long, but it just took me a little bit of time to get caught up to the pronunciation. So Palace, like Dallas, thank you so much, appreciate it. But going back to your question, Melondice, I thought when you, like I said, I haven't done a multi-write. I have to think about more workloads. I have specified on my persistent volume claim that they are multi-write. So you can actually, if you provision your PVC ahead of time in the storage section in Rancher, you can specify whether it's, read one, read many, or write many, I thought, which included read many. Try that if you haven't already. I got to try this myself. I know that I have multi-reads going on, and I know that I have single write for one of my workloads, because basically one writes there, many read from it. But I haven't tried the multi-write, multi-read. So I didn't know that was a limitation. But check out So when you spin up that, or when you create that persistent volume claim, in the advanced section, you have more options. So give that a try if you haven't already. And you have the option to specify multi-write. Do you just fall back to NFS if you need? So I've had to fall back to NFS for one thing. So I added the storage class for both Longhorn, and I've added the storage class for NFS as well. The reason why I have NFS there it isn't because I need anything that Longhorn wouldn't give me. It's just that I have one workload that has probably 3 gigs of data that is never, it never changes. Well, I shouldn't say never, but the way I've designed it, it never changes. It's just read only for one container to read, and it's like 3 or 4 gigs of data. So a lot of data, like data I wouldn't put inside of the container, right? I wouldn't ship a Docker container that had 3 or 4 gigs of data. I would just mount a container to a path, that being NFS from persistent volume claim. Anyways, I have one, and that's the only reason why I have NFS, is because I didn't want to put 3 or 4 gigs of data into Longhorn and have that replicate everywhere. Just for this one container. And it's not to say that container is not important. It is kind of important. This is the choice I had to make. But sometimes getting that much data inside of a persistent volume claim can be a challenge. So there are ways around it. I mean, I've done so far I've had to actually use kube control copy, spin up the container, hurry and try to copy the data. Hopefully that hopefully it all gets there in time. But I've done other things too, like mount a Ubuntu container to it temporarily, and then do a kube control copy from there, and without the the original container there, and then mount it there later. Anyways, so there are some quirks. I haven't run into that one yet. If I do, I will let you know. But check out the additional options you have for that volume when you create it, because you can create these ahead of time, right? You can create these PVCs ahead of time and basically stage them, and then you point your pod to the existing PVC versus creating one when it spins up. So try that. Let me know, because I want to know the answer to this. Effie Twitch, TrueNAS, I need to increase multiple drives at a time. That is true. That is true. My Pommy Sis. Hey Tim, thanks for your help on Discord. No problem at all. Yeah, no, I don't know how I helped, but hopefully I gave some solid advice. Palace Media, lots to consider. Yeah, I am Effie Twitch. I am trying to slowly migrate from Unraid to TrueNAS at the moment. Nice. Yeah, you guys are figuring this out. PC Geek, if you want a little TrueNAS scale, if you wait a little, TrueNAS scale will be coming out this year, and it's Linux-based versus BSD. Can do more stuff, similar like Unraid. Yeah, I'm excited for it, and I think Kubernetes is coming on it too. I think I did predict this, but yeah, it's coming. It's coming. I don't know when. I'm super excited. It's Linux, because then that means like I'm sure BSD people that work on it, I don't know if they're happy or not. I can't gauge. Again, I'm speculating whether or not they're happy it's switching over to Linux. I shouldn't say switching, that they're adding a new product to their lineup that supports Linux. It's probably a better way to phrase it. I'm happy for the simple reason that now it's Linux. Now I know that I'm gonna have good driver support, gonna be able to install QEMU guest agent, whatever I need. Not that I should be installing tons of stuff, but here and there are a couple things that I wish it wasn't BSD for reasons I specified before, but mainly it's for driver support and just more compatibility with more stuff. Yeah. Anyways, like if you saw, I think Jeff from Craft Computing had that video where he had the 1U server where he installed, it's a super long 1U server that was only, I don't know, $115. I don't know. You'll see it on his channel. And when he got done with the video, he realized that the NIC on there, he didn't have drivers for it because TrueNAS runs on BSD. And I'm not saying that driver, would be there on Linux, but that driver would probably be there on Linux. And so anyways, for all the reasons, and these are probably selfish reasons, I'm happy that it's coming out. But I think that we're going to see, a different form of TrueNAS than what we're used to. So yes, I totally agree, PC Geek. I had some predictions. I think I got Kubernetes right. The KVM stuff that they're going to be doing is pretty awesome too. I think just by moving to a different platform, they're opening up the doors for a lot of possibilities and a really big, exciting ecosystem, which is Linux. So yeah, and Debian too. Yes. Yeah, so anyways, Effie Twitch. But right now I decided just to run Unraid as a VM, pass through the HBA GPU via PCI pass-through to keep my wife happy with her Plex storage. Nice, man. That is nice. Yeah, you got to keep the wife happy with Plex for sure. Norton Tech. This moment I am running Proxmox as hypervisor also. Nice. Yeah, I am too. Effie Twitch, TrueNAS ZFS seems to have better performance than what Unraid does. More options, array, redundancy. Yeah, for sure there are. And like Tim, I have an issue with not sticking with one thing. Yeah, want to try a different product. Yeah, and it's not that I like to hop around and I enjoy it. Like it's exciting at first, and then I realize all the work I need to do to get there. I mean, look at anything I've done in the last 6 months, and that's true. Get excited about something, start to go all in, and realize how much actual work it takes to get back to where I had, but on a different platform. It's a lot of work. So, you got to consider that as well. But when I make these decisions, when I make platform decisions, it's usually because of a capability and not necessarily new and shiny. But yeah, I'm okay sticking with one thing. But when my needs grow, then yeah, I'm definitely, I start evaluating, and then evaluation turns almost immediately into implementation for me. But tread lightly and do your research first, for sure. Norton Tech, Proxmox works as a file server directly. Yeah, is there any advantage to use TrueNAS over Proxmox for file service? Yeah, I mean, so I'll let's peel this back a little bit. I think PC Geek's talking about, yeah, it's not designed for a file server. Yeah, I totally agree. So peel this back and like take Proxmox out of the equation and just say like, why would you use TrueNAS versus spinning up a Debian server and getting ZFS running on there and doing it that way? Is there anything wrong with it? No. No, if you are very familiar with Debian, if you are very familiar with configuring ZFS, if you're very comfortable with the terminal and troubleshooting everything from a terminal, yeah, go for it. You have a lot less bloat, you know? And I don't mean to say that like TrueNAS is a bloated product. I just mean that you have less moving parts, right? Less everything, less tooling, less services running, less resources, less attack surface, you name it. If you went to roll your own and only installed the 2-3 things you need, you probably mean more than 2-3 things if you start going, you know, NFS, SMB, iSCSI, and you start adding them all up. But what I'm saying is that, you know, I wouldn't compare it to just like, you know, managing storage on Proxmox, because you're gonna end up doing a lot of it in the terminal too, or you could end up doing a lot of work in the terminal. Sure, you're going to get a little bit of GUI, but you're not going to get, you know, a first-class experience that you get in TrueNAS. Jusk, I don't know how to pronounce it, but hey, thanks for the follow. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. I'm going with Jusk Ache. Correct me. Help me pronounce your name. Maxwell, hey, thanks for the follow. Appreciate it. Welcome. Anyways, so what I will say is that, you know, TrueNAS gives a great UI, gives a easy way to configure a lot of stuff. Configure storage, configure any type of storage you could think of. They probably support it. Get a good UI, and it's easy, I would say, for, I won't even say beginners, because there's still some advanced things in there. It's still things you need to understand how they work. But there's a lot of documentation and a lot of videos behind it. Tom Lawrence Systems has lots of great videos on TrueNAS. And so if you're going down the path of like, hey, I want to configure storage on Proxmox, you'll probably find some stuff out there. There's lots of people who've done it. Or I want to configure, you know, create ZFS volume and do that all in Debian or name your Linux distribution. Yeah, you'll probably find some stuff on it. But I will say, you know, there's a big community behind TrueNAS and they do a lot of stuff really well. And people do pay for their software, believe it or not. I know it's open source, but, you know, they have a company behind it where they produce hardware. And that hardware is I think it was Dallas who mentioned earlier. It wasn't Dallas, sorry. Dallas was switching. But, you know, there are people who pay for that hardware and pay for support and pay for, you know, TrueNAS. And so they have a business behind it. And so they're incentivized to make a rock solid, good product. And so anyways, I'm way off in the weeds. But what I am saying is that, you know, if you're comfortable with a terminal and comfortable with configuring all that stuff yourself, go for it. You know, go for it. But you know, if you need a little bit of hand-holding and want a UI, I won't even say hand-holding. I admit I need hand-holding through some of these concepts and capabilities. You know, TrueNAS has a great UI. It's one of the best I found to do the things it does, and it does a lot. It does a lot. Anyways, that's, I think, the sentiment of what I was starting to read from PC Geek 2. Proxmox is not designed for a file server role, so it's better to use something like TrueNAS, which supports setting for permissions and such. Yeah, for sure. For sure. Like, you know, it's designed around storage, high performing, reliable storage. And then the nice part is, you know, once you set up your pools, you know, your ZFS pool, every storage type you choose after that can run on that pool too. So you create a big ZFS pool. You're like, yep, NFS, run on top of that. You know, SMB, run on top of that. iSCSI, run on top of it. You know, and you keep getting, you know, all of the benefits of ZFS. You know, you start with, you know, well, you're starting with Linux OS or BSD OS. But then, your pools are ZFS, and then on top of that, you get all these capabilities. And so you have a really good, strong foundation, I guess, if you start there. And you have a good UI too. Dallas Media. Now I'm saying Dallas. I'm sorry. At least I got the rest of the pronunciation right. Palace Media. So I have an R900, will be a NAS server, and I have an R710 Future, my Proxmox server. Nice. What kind of drives does everyone recommend? Should I go with NAS drives for both servers? Are there better recommendations? Oh yeah, Penguin Airlines 410 is 1U. I learned that from you a while ago, and I recalled it correctly, and I'm really far behind. Ooh, that's a tough one. Palace Media. Depends on what you're going to do. My R710, when it was in commission, it sadly just shut it down a little while ago. Oh, real quick. Manir T, thanks for the follow. Appreciate it. So Palace, it depends on the workloads that you're running. My 710 early on, so it came with 3 terabyte drives, and I was using that. And then I decided that, hey, this 710 is going to be my virtualization workhorse. It's only going to run virtual machines. That's it. Outside of Proxmox, it was just virtualization. And so then I went with all SSDs. I mean, I get it. I'm not going to get, 20 terabytes of storage. But I was running 12, 13 VMs, I think, in there. And then those VMs were doing different things. I went with SSD. You can find them really cheap now. But I mean, if you're thinking it's going to be a NAS, it's going to be something else, you're going to do a totally different workload, you might want to consider mechanical drives too. It just depends on how much storage space you need. Because ZFS is going to perform like on an R710, you're going to get 6 disks. Well, you're going to have to decide on how you're going to configure, ZFS. Stripes VDEVs, however you configure it, you're going to have to configure that. And that will have some implications on performance and how much, total storage you get. But after that, it's going to perform. And so I'm not saying like, yeah, go SSD if you're doing virtual machines. Mechanical drives will absolutely run that workload fine, depending on what they're all doing and how many you have. Yeah, for sure. So I kind of contradicted myself there. But what I'm saying is like, do you value performance over storage or capacity, I should say. And that's the age-old question of SSD versus mechanical. It's still the question you ask yourself today when you're going to decide to buy a drive. Is it going to be? There's heat and power, inputs into there too. But most of the time, it's going to be performance versus capacity. So I think you got to just ask yourself that question too. Like, are the things I'm going to run on here more geared towards performance or more geared towards capacity? Penguin Airlines, yeah, the 410 is 1U. Nice. 1 CPU. Takano, hey man, how's it going, man? Sorry, I'm just getting to this. Funeral was done yesterday, so my dad, so most of that is done with. Dude, so sorry again, man. Sorry to hear it. Hope you're doing well. Sorry I just got your comment. Condolences to you and your family, man. Hope you're doing okay. Penguin Airlines, maybe 410 can do 2 CPU. Maybe it's the more capacity that's limited. I don't, 410. I don't know enough about it. I always go to you for my questions on a lot of the Dell equipment. Well, I go to the internet, but usually you have the answer, so sometimes it's quicker to go to you. Mill and Dice, Tim, for security, I've gone with network policies. Nice, gives me fine-grained control that I want. All right, Mill and Dice, thank you so much for that, because that's been in my head for a long time. And so what you're talking about is network policies for, I assume we're talking about the same thing, for Kubernetes, right? Applying a network policy to Kubernetes so that I can segment my namespaces. That's at the end of the day, that's what I want to do. I want to make sure that, that my namespaces aren't just for organization of my workloads, but I also want to enforce some policies around it to say, hey, my internal, namespace can only communicate with internal namespace, or my public namespace can't communicate with anything else, or vice versa, or my private namespace, name your namespace. But basically blocking communication across namespaces just in case something happens. And so some people do this. Some, and this goes back to the age-old, cluster, more clusters versus more namespaces. And I've seen it go both ways. But a lot of times I see people just do more namespaces because it's less management and it's a lot less infrastructure. Just think if you had multiple clusters, multiple kube config files, multiple everything, you got to duplicate everything everywhere. Unless you have something at a higher level managing all that, like Rancher. It gets complicated really quick. So yeah, thank you for that, because I haven't done network policies yet in Kubernetes, but that's the avenue I was thinking I was going to go down without actually fully knowing. I mean, I read about them plenty, and I understand how to apply them. But yeah, I'm grateful that you've had firsthand experience with it, because yeah, for sure. I value, personal recommendation for people who have had, experience in this area. But like I said, I've seen a lot of people do it both, different ways. But I usually see people with, single cluster, and then they just namespace everything. I mean, some people namespace, prod, development, staging, production, default, and keep all of their environments in one cluster, because it's less management for sure. But thank you for that. Dex Vinyl, quick question. Python 3 or Node.js? My answer. No, it depends on what you're trying to do, Dex Vinyl. Sorry, I just got to it. You had a quick question. I probably don't have a quick answer, and I didn't get here quickly. So I apologize. Use whatever you're comfortable with. I've done Python. It's enjoyable. I don't know enough about it yet. I've written something. It's open source. It's in my GitHub. It's out there. Did I know exactly what I was doing? No. I'm just figuring it out. Node.js, yeah, I think I have a lot of it figured out. And it's gonna be up to you, especially languages. A lot of it's gonna go with personal preference or what the project's already using. So a lot of times you don't have that choice. If you have the choice to start, I would just say, go with what you want to learn, what you're excited about. There's two things. Either you go with what you want to learn and take some more time and do it, and figure out the language as you go, right? And it'll be a learning process, slower development cycle. Or, you go with something I'm not saying Node.js, but this is a decision a lot of people have to make a lot of the time. Sometimes a code is just a means to an end, right? You want to get this capability. You want to get this website running. You want this thing, this service to process files and upload it somewhere, right? And so sometimes, code is just a means to an end, because at the end of the day, like your code, whatever language you write it in, sometimes it doesn't matter, because the outcome is all you care about, that you parsed files and uploaded them, or you processed files, or you created a website or a web server, an API, you name it. So yeah, if you go with something you're familiar with, you could get it done faster, and maybe that's the outcome you want. But if you go with something less familiar, there's some trade-offs. Might take a little bit longer, but at the same time, you're going to pick up another skill along the way. So it's up to you. Me personally, if I was going to start a project today, I'd choose Node.js, just because I'm super familiar with it. And most of the time when I start a new project, I have an idea and I know the outcome, and I want to get there as quick as possible. I guess business value, or create some value as quickly as possible. They both can create value very quickly if you're familiar with both. If you're not, my preference is, unless you want to learn, create the one where you can create the value as quickly as possible, and go from there. That's me. Because then once I create that value, then I can iterate on that. Okay, what else can I do? And what else can I do? Or what can I do different? Or what feedback did I get? And just keep iterating on that. So that's how I develop for my personal stuff. Kleinster, hey, thanks for follow, appreciate it. Chris Pallid, I just started watching your Before I Do Anything on Proxmox video and saw you had a Twitch channel, so I came here and you were live. Hey, thank you so much. Sorry it took so long to get to your comment. Really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Pontian, hey, thanks for follow, appreciate it. Welcome. Thank you so much. Yeah, PC Geek, thanks for thanking them. Thank you. My Palm sis, we have a theory. Tim is secretly running Proxmox inside of a VM, running on top of Hyper-V. CF Discord, yeah. I've done pass-through virtualization. I think, or nested virtualization, I think is what most of the market calls it. I've done it once. And I think it was only on my Windows machine because I needed to run Hyper-V. What was it? I needed to run Hyper-V or something on my virtual machine, or run Hyper-V on my local Windows machine. And then that virtual machine that I was creating needed virtualization as well. So I've only done nested virtualization once. And I have some experience in Hyper-V. I did Hyper-V for a long time. Got nothing against it. Nothing against it. Well, nothing against it. How much time you got? No. It's just for a long time, it was very tough to manage. I think Microsoft has greatly improved the tooling around it. But for a long time, it was only easy to manage if you had a domain. I didn't have a domain. And then it was only easy if you had another Windows machine. I wasn't always on a Windows machine, so I'd have to RDP into a machine to then connect to that server, the hypervisor, or a machine that had access to the hypervisor. So anyways, long story short, I'm sure it's come a long way. And I've even done the headless version, Windows, get what it's called. I don't know. There's a headless version of Windows. I've done it that way too, where Microsoft has their free hypervisor as long as you use the headless version of Windows. And I've done that. But I can't say that my Proxmox is nested within Hyper-V. That'd be kind of awesome. I feel like I have to pull off my mask at that point and be like, one of those Scooby-Doo episodes. Too much Inception. I totally agree. Dell Champs, VMware purchased SaltStack. That's right. I've seen that in the headlines because people are like, what's going to happen to it now? Not that anything bad would, what could go wrong when large companies, buy open source projects? What can go wrong? Anyways, it has an agent by default. However, you can do it agentless over SSH. Thanks for that clarification. Thank you so much. King Jasper, did you hear about the NFS issue? I didn't. Simple CMD. Simple CD command can corrupt your disk. Oh my gosh, please don't. Please don't. Motion Gotes. I'm working on Synac. Oh yeah, I've seen this a lot. Red Team, and I'm proud. All right, love it. Thunderstorm. Techno Tim, couldn't you just use a single playbook instead of using all breakout groups inside your host file? Single playbook. I might be able to. I'd love to see a minified, a reduced use case, or a reduced test case, I usually say, in development of how one would do that. Because I would love to see it, because I can't really wrap my head around how I would do that with my current understanding of it. Because I think in code, like all of those modules that I created are like my classes. And so I just think in my head, like, instantiate this class, do this thing, do this thing, do this thing, so they can be reused instead of repeated everywhere. Otherwise I have, I have one role that has that same, I don't want to say class, but that same module copied 5 times for each role versus once. Yeah, I'd love to see it. Norton Tech, is there anybody who use Shinobi, open source, CCTV, and VR solution? It's been a while since I heard about Shinobi. I used to hear about Shinobi at like once a week in Discord. Haven't heard anything about it. I tried ZoneMinder, but it was extremely resource hogging. Then I changed to Motion with custom scripts. No, so my thing about ever even trying Shinobi was if they had a Docker container or not. Because I was like, if I'm going to switch camera security solutions, I'm eating my words now, aren't I? but one of the reasons why, let me reel it back a little bit. So I used Blue Iris for a long time, still do. I'm gonna end up saying this a lot. I can see this in my future. But when Shinobi and Motion Eye and all of these other ZoneMinder were brought to my attention, obviously I knew about them, except for Shinobi. Shinobi was a new one. I thought in my head, okay, the make me move feature will be, can I containerize this thing? And I know that's probably not the greatest metric or capability or feature, I guess, of the software. But the make me move was always, can I run it in a Docker container? Because I don't want to run a specific VM for this thing And I'm already running a specific VM that's Windows only, and nothing against Windows and nothing against Blue Iris, but I have the care and feeding is way different than all of my Linux machines. And so I keep seeing this make me move, like on a what's it called? Zestimate, Zillow. They have that make me move. Well, the make me move for my next PVR or DVR, PVR, or CCTV, DVR. I don't know what. So many acronyms that can't apply. Was going to be, can it run in a Docker container? Because I eventually wanted to put it in Kubernetes or at least in Docker, so it's whatever, all the good things you get from Docker and containerization. But when I looked at Shinobi, I mean, someone said, yeah, there's a Docker container, and I looked at it and it was like, I think 2 years old at the time. And they have a free versus a paid version. And, at the time I was just like, yeah, I don't really trust this container that's 2 years old. Who knows? Maybe it pulls down all of its source files when it initializes and runs from there. But anyways, long story short, I've heard about it. It has a decent looking UI. People have talked about it before in our Discord. People have talked to me about it before. Haven't tried it. But like I said, like my the feature I always look for in the next version of things is, can it be containerized? And that's just me. I wouldn't say it's a hard requirement, but if it's going to make me change from, how I'm doing things now, those are one of my inputs too. Obviously, there are a lot of other inputs. Like if the thing I was using now was totally deprecated and I had to get off it, it would, that would matter less. But since it wasn't deprecated and I was paying for it, those were one of the things. Anyways, I'd love to know your feedback. Give it a try. Let me know. I hear lots of stuff about MotionEye and ZoneMinder. Like people are super excited about it until they, until they implement it, and then like a lot of things, it's tough. It's a very tough space. It's a tough space, and I think that's why we don't see a lot of people in this space. We see a lot of consumer products in this space, right? Because they're selling you everything, the hardware, the services, the storage, the cloud, everything, and I think that's where they can, make some of their money back, or whatever, they subsidize, some of the cost of the hardware with, well, some companies. I mean, some cameras are still $200, $300, $400. That, but some companies subsidize that hardware. Maybe wise, I don't know their business model, but they subsidize that through a cloud subscription later on. So they're like, we'll sell you cheap hardware, but we hope that you subscribe and start to pay us over time, right? And Wise has a pretty good one. It's one per camera. It's pretty unique. And so, and absolutely you don't have to go with them in the cloud, but that this is why it's, it's a tough space to be in. I think Wise found a great business model that works. Who knows if it works? TBD, right? Because they're newer than a lot of the other ones. Anyways, the point of all of this is that it's a tough space to be in. It's a very tough space for an open source project to be in too, especially when the open source project just does the MVR piece, where they don't maybe have the hardware, or they don't, have any of the infrastructure in the cloud, and so they're, it's people's free time and passion building this thing. So anyways, I'm going back to the whole open source thing from today. But it's a tough space to be in. It's tough. I'm sure it's tough for ZoneMinder, and it's tough for Motion or MotionEye, whatever front end you use for it, as it is for anyone else in this space. So anyways, and Shinobi is one I hear about a lot, but I think they even have a paid version versus a free version. I'm not sure what the differences are between the two. Anyways, I haven't done it. Let me know how it works out, because I'm always super interested in it. And like I said, I've had my finger on the pulse in home security and video recording for, I couldn't even tell you, 8-9 years. Skill Rater. I got an unsolicited email from Rancher on my work email. Never used Rancher before or even visited their website. That throws some red flags for me. Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, it just depends. It's someone selling your data. So I wouldn't look at it like, oh, Rancher, unsolicited email. It's someone else you're using that's selling your data. or scraping your LinkedIn, or there are many ways that people get this information. It's sold. I mean, you can buy email addresses as a service, and these are respected companies, and lots of businesses are paying for it. It's not like some deep, dark secret of selling emails. I mean, there's huge corporations built on this, and they're super popular. I mean, if you look at any CRM, cloud-based CRM, a lot of them sell that too. Anyways, I'm not even saying that that's a bad thing, but at the end of the day, companies are doing it. And so when you think of selling your data, I mean, people will sell your email address too, for sure. Absolutely. And it's not just like this dark web thing. It's actually a legitimate business that marketers pay for. And that marketers have created companies around. So yeah, I'm not surprised. I wouldn't fault Rancher for it. I'd look at the services you're using, and see if see who is selling your information from there. It happens a lot. It happens. I've seen it. I know companies that do it, and I'm not going to mention them, but they're huge companies, huge companies that you buy a subscription for, and you get contacts. So you can send cold emails to, and that's exactly what it sounded like happened to you. So it's not anything dark web. These are Fortune probably 100 companies that offer these services. Porch Logic, what main tech projects do you work on? Techno Tim. That's a tough question. My answer has kind of been the same for the last couple of weeks. It's been migrating a lot of my infrastructure and migrating my network. So is this wave of you could see what I was working on. If you look at the last video, that was last weekend and then into the week, and the same from the video before. They're usually what I'm working on. And so that's why I always ask that question to most people, because my video for the week is usually my answer to that question. What is my tech project for the week? I'm totally doing waterfall because it has to be done. The project has to be done, and for the most part. And the video has to be edited and so on and so forth. So anyways, what am I working on now? Yeah, so I'm done doing most of my network migrations. There's a few things I need to clean up once I shut down and deprecate some other things. Then I was doing a huge Kubernetes migration. So I was going from the Docker version of Rancher. I was going from a very different environment to K3S. And so I've been doing that, migrating that. I shut down my old Kubernetes environment. There are still some things I need to tweak on my internal load balancer and external load balancer. Just haven't had the time to put into it. There are other things I need to do around, segmentation of namespaces, what I was just talking about earlier, about Kubernetes network policies I need to put in place before I spin up new services. I just want to be absolutely sure that, no container in this namespace could ever communicate with this other container. Not that I'm worried about things, breaking out. I mean, that's always a risk and a valid concern. But I want to plan for that. I'm zero concerned that it's actually going to happen, but that's part of security. You plan for what won't happen or what you think is possible and what's not possible. So anyways, I want to put some network policies in place in Kubernetes, test them to make sure they actually work the way they're supposed to. I haven't 100% finished my camera upgrade stuff. Hey, Gobsmack, thanks for the follow, appreciate it, welcome. So I haven't 100% completed that. I mean, I have a camera actually sitting right here that I probably could have pointed right at my 3090 and totally could have trolled people. I could have done that, but I didn't think of it. Didn't have the foresight. And then there's a lot of 3090 stuff I need to do. So this I showed earlier, but this big guy has just been sitting. This is the most action he has seen all week since I bought him. So, but in order to do that, I want to measure my current workstation, measure a few things, collect some data, so that when I, put this card in, I can, compare it against that. So anyways, lots of random tech stuff. Lots of random tech. I feel like a lot of cleanup because I moved really fast. I know that 3-4 weeks might not seem fast, but I totally, ripped out my whole entire every piece of my infrastructure is different from 4 weeks ago versus now, except for my disk shelf. But arguably, that's attached to a different server on a new machine. So lots of cleanup. And then I've been switching over to DNS. You know, I'm 100% DNS now at home. I don't refer to anything by IP address anymore. What? No, I don't. I was gonna say, well, Blue Iris, my cameras, but you know, then there's that. So arguably, I haven't shut down my Blue Iris yet. I don't plan on anytime soon. But you know, I've been switching over to DNS. Kind of painful. I'm not gonna lie. Kind of painful. And it's not like things went wrong. It's more so that, you know, it just takes a little more planning. It's, you know, create this DNS name and this alias, and then, okay, where is this alias or DNS name referenced? Okay, let's go update all the things that reference it. So I have custom code that used to reference IP addresses, you know, systems that referenced IP addresses. And the sad thing is I've done this twice now. This was the tipping scale for me to go full DNS. Is because, you know, I did this migration of custom code from, you know, old Kubernetes to new Kubernetes. New Kubernetes had new IP addresses and arguably multiple nodes. So I couldn't tell you which IP address it's running on. So that kind of forced me to do DNS. But even if I went single node and I could guess the IP address changed. So I had to update a whole bunch of custom code, a whole bunch of firewalls. Can't get around firewall rules for DNS names or for IP addresses, but anyways. So I had to upgrade a ton of custom code and move everything around, shuffle everything around, and configure different things when I switched to my new network. Then when I did my new Kubernetes, I kind of had to do the same thing again. And then I was like, that's it. I'm not using IP addresses anymore. I'm going to rely on DNS. If my DNS is down, then I got problems and I need to fix them. And so, yeah, it's always DNS. So now my answer to a lot of things is going to be DNS. And so that's what forced me to look into getting, you know, better availability from Pi-hole. And that's how I found Gravity Sync. And that's, you know, again, these are projects I've done and implemented and I'm still using today. And so, yeah, there's just always been that, you know, I don't know where I'm going with that one. Anyways, long story short, I'm full DNS now. It was painful at first, but now it's super nice. And now that I get to use CNAMEs, that's kind of nice too. So a lot of people say like, what do you need CNAMEs for? Can't you create another DNS record? Yeah, I could. I found that the best part for me, or my use case for CNAMEs, at least internally, is, you know, when I don't want to refer to my server's host name in code or in my load balancer or anywhere, you know, I just create an alias for that host, so then I can refer to it by a DNS name. And that's super helpful for web requests, right? Well, I can reference a web request by a CNAME or by an alias, which resolves to a host, but it doesn't have to be that host name. So now in code, I can just make up service names. I can make up host names. You know, I can say whatever, Techno Tim's awesome service dot whatever dot local dot yada 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 yada. And now I never have to worry if that server name changes or server changes. I'll update the alias, but you know, I don't have to refer to it by server name ever again. So that's my use case for aliases. And there are probably plenty of others, but you know, at least in development, I don't refer to my. So I'm optimizing this time. Yes, I had the foresight to say, you know, I'm not going to base my custom code now on the real host name of the server because that could change. And arguably, yeah, I could go and update DNS, but now I'm trying to get ahead of that curve of like, what happens if that server goes down and now I have to go to update custom code everywhere that refers to a host name on a server? Well, I'm not going to do that. So I created my own service names and created alias that tie back to those host names. So anyways, wow, that's a lot. How did I even get here? That's what happens when you ask what I'm working on. It's like, how much time you got? But yeah, anyways. Let's see here. I got to do this. I do apologize, but I do have to. I'm getting close to the end, so I'm gonna have to first thank NerdBraze for the follow. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I'm gonna have to scroll through. There are so many comments. I'm gonna look for ones that are specifically mentioning me because I want to make sure that I address your question. I'm skimming so fast, but I do gotta I do have some things to take care of. Here we go. Stigfinito, Techno in question. And maybe you've answered this already. I checked out the video on Longhorn with Rancher, a total of 8 VMs. I wanted to replicate that from the beginning, but it was a lot of work. How would you go about setting up new VMs? Using clones from a main VM, using templates with Cloud Init? Thanks. Yes. So I think you're right. So Stigfinito, I think you're right. Anything you can do ahead of time to reduce some of that, mundane or workload in the beginning, like templating is absolutely the way to go. So yeah, I do. I do clones. I know I should use. I've read Proxmox's opinion on how I do it. I do it a little bit different. I do a full clone. I don't know why. Just because I don't want to have everything tying back to this to an image. That I then can't change unless I change all of the things, I guess. But anyways, I do a full clone. You could probably get by with not a full clone, like a linked clone, but I do. But the only problem with that is, and I think that's kind of what you're hinting at with the Cloud Init, is that if I do clone a machine and then I spin that machine up, there's some leftover baggage, so there's some cruft. So there are things I have to do afterwards, like reinitialize the NICs, reinitialize, clear out my SSH keys. So I have this laundry list of things I do afterwards, after spinning up a new machine. And arguably I can do that with Ansible too, which I have. But if you want to go, I think an evolution past that, I think it would be using Cloud Init. I think it would be using Cloud Init and bootstrap it with a lot of your settings, bootstrap it with your SSH key, and go from there. And then you're starting out with a clean, whatever, Linux, Ubuntu server that's been initialized cleanly, and go from there. And so that's kind of where I start, is cloning the machine or starting the machine, however it is. And then from there, I have my Ansible scripts that I run, or Ansible tasks that I run, workbooks. Gotta use the right vernacular. And then, which are a combination of things of updating, installing agents, Z shell. So all the typical things I do to a new Linux machine when I bring it into my environment. And then after that, it's K3S, and then it's K3S, join, and then specify its role, and then be sure to apply your taints or whatever you're going to do at that same time, and then go from there. Then it's in my cluster, and then it's just another node. So it is. I agree. If you're starting with nothing and going to 8 nodes, that's a lot. That's a lot. But mine's evolved. Mine's evolved from it was 4. And then it went 6 and I think 8 real quick. But I already had the 4 in place. So I wouldn't do everything at once. I don't know. Maybe you want to, and maybe you could script it all and build it up and tear it down. I know Ilud, he does a ton of that. He's a huge fan of that. Just making, basically his infrastructure as code and making it repeatable to where he can totally tear it down and build it back up. And maybe that's the way to go. But if not, I would say, your first pass, go creating a K3S Kubernetes cluster. Make sure it works. There's a lot of steps involved, and then going from there to getting Rancher. Make sure that works, and then you can add Longhorn after that. So yeah, but if you need a persistent volume claim and Longhorn's going to be your storage class, you kind of got to do them all at once before you can get your user workloads on there. So I hope that helps. If not, ping all of us in Discord. There are a lot of people in there who have done a lot of great things for automation. I'm definitely not an automation expert. I have my way of doing things that I've done it for a long time. And every time someone mentions something in Discord, I'm like, yeah, I'm going to borrow that. I'm going to borrow that and put it into my repertoire, if you will. All right, going to look for direct mentions because I do have to wrap it up. Techno is secretly launching an AWS competitor. Oh, Homelab new. Oh, that would be so tough. You'd just get crushed. I don't know. Any new cloud service, it's got to be tough because you're competing on prices and capabilities as soon as you walk out the door. Oh, that would be tough. Clever Princess. Hey, thanks for the follow. Appreciate it. Welcome. Thanks for being here. Going through, looking for direct mentions because I do have to kind of wrap some things up. Oh, here, I've reached the end. Are we talking about creating hosting environments for cloud applications? Yeah. So Gobsmack, we were talking about, how do you spin up lots? I guess that. How do you create multiple nodes, Kubernetes nodes really fast? I guess that's what it boiled down to. And it was, do you clone? Do you cloud init? How do you automate provisioning new Linux machines? Is I think what it boils down to. I think so. I think that's what it boils down to. Mr. Creeper's Face. All right, Mr. Creeper's Face. Recently built a Proxmox server and intend to use it to host pfSense and Pi-hole, but I cannot get my network card found through Proxmox. So yeah, Mr. Creeper's Face. I'll keep it short because I talked about this earlier. You're gonna have to make sure of a couple of things in order to pass through any card. Your motherboard has to support it. Your CPU has to support it. You have to turn it on in your motherboard's BIOS or UEFI configuration BIOS. And then you have to enable it in Proxmox. So before you can even use it in Proxmox, you have to make sure of those 4 things. And if you need help with that, look at my first 11 things I do in Proxmox. It's detailed there, step by step, along with the commands you need to run to turn it on. So yeah, check it out. Mr. Creeper's Face. Thanks. Hey, wow. I should turn on mentions only because then I get feedback right away. So I appreciate it. Wow. I kind of have to wrap things up. Man, this stream was super. Went on for a lot longer than I expected to. I really appreciate it. One, I absolutely appreciate you being here. There were tons of follows, tons of subs. I cannot thank you enough for that. So thank you so much. But I always say being here and chatting and just spending time is more than I can ever ask for. So I really appreciate it. Raid time. All right, we'll find someone. I do have to make it quick. Thanks for the reminder. I absolutely appreciate it. There's another follow there. Muffin Top Man. Hey, thanks, Muffin Top Man. Thanks for the follow. Appreciate it. Welcome. I do encourage you, if you want to, well, one, stick around for the raid because we're absolutely going to do a raid, so we'll find someone. But two, if you want to continue this conversation on, maybe you had follow-up questions, maybe you want opinions other than my own, which you probably should get, I feel like mine are pretty okay, rounded. But if you want to get more opinions, more expertise, go deeper on topics, I highly encourage you to join a Discord server. We have a Discord server full of a lot of people you see in here and a lot of people you don't. And so there are people from all walks of life, all over the world in our Discord server. It's linked below. I'm going to post it right here too if I can type. It's right there too. So it's down below somewhere if you click the about, or it's right there. So I encourage you to join. Thank you for spending part of your afternoon with us. Hey, Salveris, thank you for spending some time with me. So we are going to raid someone. Whoa, what do I even have open? I have open all kinds of stuff. Docker desktop, Cinemark benchmarks. Oh, you guys know what I'm going after. So let's see here. Let's make this full screen. So you can't see some of the things I'm working on. I'm terrible at actually keeping things off my screen that should be private. That's why I'm terrible. And yeah, I probably leak so many secrets in some of my videos. I try to be pretty good about it, but it's so tough to make sure I blurt out anything. Anyways, we're gonna switch over to here. I'm not gonna go into the creator dashboard because that is all kinds of, speaking of secrets, that's every secret in Twitch. I won't go there, but let me go in and find someone who we're gonna raid. So is it ready for people? Yes, it's ready for people. So the way that this usually works is that I try to pick someone from science and tech first. Next, I try to pick someone who's actually present and doing stuff. I mean, like, I like pet ducks and friends and feeding ducks programmatically, but I also want to raid someone who's actually physically doing something or being there. And then on top of that, then I just kind of just go for your recommendations. And then there's one more other rule. These are all loose rules and they keep changing over time. Then, I try not to do like sponsored streams or I don't want to say sponsored streams, but streams that are hosted by a corporation. Because, I want to pass on the love to someone who may not, will be excited that you guys are here. The other thing is I try not to raid someone who we've already raided before. So I see a lot of people in this top row who did. Oh, Jamie Pine Live. We should totally raid this guy. Anyways, Hey, there we go. Jamie Pine Live. Yeah, I'm totally going to do it. So Jamie Pine Live, I think this is him. Yeah, it is. It looks like his avatar. He's creating this app called Notify and this service called Notify. He actually invited me into the beta. And so, totally, this was not planned. Yeah, he's spinning up this service called Notify. It looks pretty awesome. He invited me to the beta. I joined it. So yeah, we're totally going to rate him. And not because... so I'll say this, PC Geek recommended him before I even saw it, but we're going to do it. So if you need, oh gosh, please don't let there be secrets on that screen I just showed, no. So if you need some recommendations for rate emojis, I mean, you guys have some, you guys know them if you're subbed. If you don't, here's some you can copy and paste. If not, you can totally grab anything you like, but let's go ahead. How am I not following him either? Jeez. Okay. Let's totally jump in here. So we're gonna rate him. I do appreciate you guys being here. Oh gosh, raid. I do this so old school. There's probably a button I can press to raid him. Let me see. Is there? Because man, no, there's report. I'm not gonna report him. I'll copy and paste his name. It's probably a button I can press somewhere to raid him, but I still do it through command line. Anyways, I will say thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. We're gonna raid Jamie Pine Live. Be good. He's a super good guy. We're going to jump in there in 7 seconds. Get in here. We're going to rate him. So appreciate it. Thank you so much. Be good to each other. Take care.